When a grieving widower accidentally texts "I miss you" to his boss at 2 a.m., he expects termination, not her standing on his doorstep the next morning holding coffee and asking to come inside. Evan Brooks never imagined his career-ending mistake would shatter the walls around Lauren Hale's heart, revealing a woman who understood his pain better than anyone alive. Sometimes the wrong number leads to exactly the right person. If you're watching from anywhere in the world, drop your city in the comments below. I want to see how far this story travels. And if Broken Hearts Finding Second Chances resonates with you, hit that like button and stay until the end. Trust me, you won't see this twist coming. The cursor blinked mockingly on Evan Brooks's phone screen at 2:47 a.m., the only light in his darkened bedroom cutting through shadows that felt heavier than they should. His thumb hovered over the send button, trembling slightly, not from cold, but from the familiar ache that lived permanently in his chest these days. "I miss you." 2 words, simple, devastating, true. He typed them 100 times before, messages that went nowhere because Sarah's number had been disconnected 8 months ago, 4 days after the funeral when he'd finally worked up the courage to cancel her phone plan. But tonight the grief felt sharper than usual, maybe because their daughter Mia had asked at dinner why Mommy never came to her school concerts anymore. Her 7-year-old voice so small and confused that Evan had excused himself to the bathroom just to breathe. So he'd written the text anyway, the way his therapist suggested, acknowledging the feelings, giving them somewhere to go, even if that somewhere was just the void of digital space. His vision blurred as he pressed send, watching the message disappear into whatever quantum realm held all the words we wish we could take back. Then his phone buzzed. Evan's heart stopped. The response came through immediately, impossibly. "Who is this?" His blood turned to ice water. With shaking hands, he scrolled up to check the recipient, and his stomach dropped through the floor. Not Sarah's old number, not his therapist, not even his brother Marcus, who'd been fielding these kinds of messages for months with patient fraternal grace. Lauren Hale, his boss. "Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God!" The words tumbled out in a panicked whisper as Evan shot upright in bed, his pulse hammering so hard he could feel it in his temples. Lauren Hale, the woman who'd hired him 2 years ago to work as a senior designer at Hale & Morrison Architecture, who ran the firm with precision and barely concealed impatience, who had never once in 24 months of employment smiled at any of his attempts at workplace humor. Lauren Hale, who probably thought he was some kind of stalker now. His fingers flew across the screen. "Ms. Hale, I am so sorry. That message wasn't meant for you. Please disregard. Again, my deepest apologies." The 3 dots appeared, indicating she was typing. Evan watched them with the kind of dread usually reserved for pending medical test results. "It's 3 a.m., Brooks." Who texts their boss at 3 a.m.? Fair question. Terrible question. How did he even begin to explain? "It was an accident. I was texting someone else. It won't happen again." The dots appeared and disappeared 3 times before her response finally came through. "Are you all right?" Evan stared at those 3 words for a full minute. In 2 years of working under Lauren Hale's exacting standards, she'd asked him about project timelines, design revisions, client specifications, and budget constraints. She had never, not once, asked if he was all right. "I'm fine. Again, very sorry for the disturbance. See you Monday." He turned off his phone before she could respond, pressed his palms against his eyes, and tried very hard not to calculate how quickly he could update his resume. The weekend passed in a haze of anxiety and forced normalcy. Saturday morning meant pancakes with Mia, though Evan burned the first batch because he kept checking his silent phone. Mia didn't notice. She was too busy arranging her stuffed animals in order of size, a new organizational phase that Sarah would have found hilarious. "Daddy, why does Mr. Whiskers have to be in the back?" Mia asked, holding up her favorite teddy bear with serious concern. "He's the oldest. Shouldn't he be in front?" Evan flipped another pancake, grateful for the distraction. "You're the boss of teddy bear order, sweetheart. Whatever makes sense to you." "But what if the other animals get mad?" "Then you mediate. Use your conflict resolution skills." Mia giggled, a sound that still caught him off guard with its capacity to make the world feel lighter. "You're silly, Daddy." "I'm terrified I just torpedoed our financial security with one stupid text," he didn't say. Instead, he served the pancakes and listened to her explain the complex social hierarchy of her stuffed animal kingdom, letting her 7-year-old logic wash over him like a balm. By Sunday evening, Evan had almost convinced himself the incident would blow over. Lauren Hale was nothing if not professional. She'd probably already forgotten about it, written it off as a weird blip in an otherwise normal weekend. Monday morning, he'd walk into the office, keep his head down, deliver exceptional work, and never speak of it again. He was loading the dishwasher when the doorbell rang. "I'll get it!" Mia shrieked, already racing toward the front door with the reckless speed of childhood. "Wait!" Evan called, wiping his hands on a dish towel. They weren't expecting anyone. His brother was 3 states away, and Mrs. Chen from next door always knocked in a specific pattern. He reached the entryway just as Mia pulled the door open, and every carefully constructed plan for Monday morning shattered like dropped glass. Lauren Hale stood on his porch, but not the Lauren Hale he knew, not the woman in razor-sharp blazers and heels that clicked against the office floors like a countdown timer. This version wore jeans, actual blue jeans slightly faded at the knees, a soft gray sweater. Her dark hair, usually pulled back in a severe bun, fell loose around her shoulders. She held 2 coffee cups from the place downtown that Evan had mentioned once, months ago, in a conversation he didn't think she'd been listening to. "Ms. Hale," Evan managed, his voice coming out strangled. "Brooks." She offered a small, uncertain smile, an expression he'd never seen on her face before. "I'm sorry to show up unannounced. I tried calling, but it went straight to voicemail." Because he'd turned his phone off. Because he was a coward. "Is that my teacher?" Mia asked, peering around Evan's legs with open curiosity. "No, sweetheart, this is Ms. Hale. She's your boss," Lauren finished, crouching down to Mia's eye level with surprising ease. "You must be Mia. Your dad talks about you all the time." Mia's eyes went wide. "He does?" "Constantly. He says you're the best artist in your entire school." "I am," Mia confirmed with the confident modesty of 7-year-olds everywhere. "I'm making a diorama about penguins. Do you like penguins?" "I think penguins are excellent," Lauren said seriously, and Evan watched something shift in her expression, a softness that seemed to surprise even her. "Ms. Hale," Evan tried again, his brain still struggling to process the scene in front of him. "What are you doing here?" She straightened slowly, and for just a second he saw something raw flash across her face, something that looked almost like fear. "Can we talk?" "I brought coffee, the good kind." Every professional instinct screamed at him to politely decline, to maintain boundaries, to not invite his boss into his home on a Sunday evening. But something in her eyes, a vulnerability he recognized because he saw it in the mirror every morning, made him step aside. "Of course, come in." Lauren Hale had been inside exactly 3 employees' homes in her 12 years of running Hale and Morrison Architecture. One had been Marcus Chen, the senior partner for his annual 4th of July barbecue that was really just an excuse to talk about the firm's quarterly projections while pretending to grill hot dogs. The second had been Jennifer Walsh, whose husband was also in the industry and whose dinner parties were strategic networking disguised as social events. The third had been Tom Morrison himself, her late mentor and the firm's co-founder, back when she was still learning what it meant to build something that lasted. She had never shown up uninvited at an employee's house on a Sunday evening, holding coffee and what felt dangerously close to hope. The interior of Evan Brooks' home caught her completely off guard. She'd expected bachelor chaos, dishes in the sink, mismatched furniture, that particular kind of disorder that came from surviving rather than living. Instead, she found warmth, photographs everywhere, carefully arranged on walls and shelves, a child's artwork displayed with the kind of pride usually reserved for museum pieces, books organized by color on built-in shelves that someone had clearly crafted by hand, throw pillows that actually matched, a level of intentional care that spoke of someone actively choosing to make a home, not just occupy a space. "Sorry about the mess," Evan said automatically, though the living room was cleaner than Lauren's own condo had been in months. "We were just finishing dinner." "It's beautiful," Lauren heard herself say, and meant it. "Did you build these shelves?" Evan blinked, surprised. "Yeah, last spring." Mia wanted more space for her books, and it seemed easier than trying to find something that fit the alcove. Of course he had. She'd seen his design work, precise, thoughtful, with an attention to detail that made the impossible look effortless. Why wouldn't that translate to his personal life? "Daddy, can Ms. Hale see my penguin diorama?" Mia asked, tugging on Evan's sleeve with the insistence of children who knew their parents' weak spots. "It's almost done. I just need to add the ice." Evan looked at Lauren helplessly, clearly torn between parental indulgence and professional mortification. "Sweetheart, Ms. Hale probably didn't come here to look at school projects." "Actually," Lauren interrupted, setting down the coffee cups on the side table, "I would love to see your diorama. I did a project about penguins when I was your age." Mia's face lit up like Christmas morning. "Really? Did yours have a working glacier?" "It did not," Lauren admitted, "though I wish I'd thought of that. Mine just had cotton balls for snow." "Cotton balls are boring," Mia declared with the brutal honesty of youth. "Come on, I'll show you the good kind of ice." She grabbed Lauren's hand, small fingers warm and trusting, and pulled her toward the hallway before either adult could object. Lauren glanced back at Evan, who stood frozen in his own living room, looking like someone who'd just watched his carefully ordered universe tilt sideways. She offered him a small shrug that said, "I'm in it now," and let herself be led away by a 7-year-old tour guide. Mia's bedroom was exactly what Evan would have created, a careful balance between childhood whimsy and organized structure. Stuffed animals arranged by size along one wall, a reading nook with pillows, and a lamp shaped like the moon. A desk where the penguin diorama sat in various stages of completion, construction paper, carefully cut and arranged, with what looked like actual plastic sheets meant to simulate ice. "See?" Mia pointed proudly at her creation. "The penguins can slide on it. That's what they do in real life. They slide on their tummies." Lauren leaned in, genuinely impressed despite herself. "This is really sophisticated work, Mia. The attention to detail is excellent. Did you research penguin habitats?" "I went to the library with Daddy. We got 3 books." Mia pulled them from a shelf, all with colorful covers showing various species of penguins. "Did you know there are 17 different kinds?" "I didn't know that," Lauren said honestly, settling onto the floor beside the desk in a way that would have horrified anyone at the office who only knew her as someone who conducted meetings standing up. "Which is your favorite?" "Emperor penguins. They're the biggest, and the daddies take care of the eggs, while the mommies hunt." Mia's voice dropped slightly on that last part, and Lauren felt something tighten in her chest. "That's very special," she said carefully. "Teamwork is important in penguin families." "My mommy isn't here anymore," Mia said, matter-of-factly, arranging 2 penguin figurines on the diorama's ice. "She died when I was 6, but Daddy says she'd be proud of my projects." The words hit Lauren like a physical blow. She'd known, abstractly, that Evan was a widower. It was in his personnel file, the reason he'd requested flexible hours and occasional work-from-home days. But knowing something as a data point and hearing it from a child who'd lived through loss were entirely different experiences. "I'm sure she would be," Lauren managed, her throat suddenly tight. "Your work is beautiful." "Do you have kids?" Mia asked, with the seamless topic transitions of children everywhere. "No, I don't." "Why not?" "Mia," Evan's voice came from the doorway, gentle but firm. "That's a personal question, remember?" "Sorry." Mia didn't look particularly sorry, but she smiled up at Lauren with gap-toothed sweetness. "Do you want to help me add the ice? You have to be very careful or it breaks." Lauren glanced at Evan, who stood in the doorway looking like a man watching his professional and personal lives collide in real time and having no idea how to stop it. She should make an excuse, should redirect to whatever conversation she'd actually come here to have, should maintain the boundaries that kept her world carefully ordered and manageable. Instead, she heard herself say, "I'd love to help." And 20 minutes later, Evan found himself watching his boss, his actual boss, the woman who'd once sent back a design revision with 14 separate notes and the comment, "acceptable but not exceptional," kneeling on his daughter's bedroom floor, carefully applying strips of clear plastic to a shoebox diorama, while Mia provided running commentary on proper Antarctic ice formation. "It has to be smooth but not too smooth," Mia explained with the authority of a 7-year-old expert, "because penguins need to be able to grip it with their feet when they're not sliding." That makes sense, Lauren said seriously, adjusting the placement with the same precision she probably brought to multi-million-dollar architectural projects. Like this? Perfect. You're really good at this, Ms. Hale. Thank you. I had a good teacher. Evan leaned against the doorframe, coffee growing cold in his hands, trying to reconcile the scene in front of him with everything he thought he knew about Lauren Hale. This woman wasn't supposed to exist, the version who laughed at a child's joke about penguin bathroom habits, who didn't flinch when Mia accidentally knocked over a jar of glitter, who seemed genuinely interested in the complex social structures of Antarctic bird colonies. Daddy, look! Mia held up the completed section. Ms. Hale fixed the part I couldn't get right. I see that, sweetheart. It looks amazing. We make a good team, Mia declared, high-fiving Lauren with sticky, glitter-covered hands that left sparkles on her boss's palm. Lauren looked down at the glitter like she'd just discovered a new species of substance, then up at Evan with an expression he couldn't quite read. Surprised, maybe. Or bemused. Possibly both. All right, project manager, Evan said gently. It's almost bedtime. Time to clean up. But we just got to the fun part. The fun part will still be there tomorrow. Say goodnight to Ms. Hale. Mia pouted but complied, wrapping her arms around Lauren's neck in an impulsive hug that clearly caught both adults off guard. Thanks for helping with my project. You can come back any time. Lauren's arms came up slowly, carefully, returning the embrace with a tenderness that made Evan's chest ache. Thank you for letting me help. Your penguin diorama is going to be the best in your class. I know, Mia said with cheerful confidence, then bounded toward her bathroom to brush her teeth, leaving Evan and Lauren in a suddenly quiet bedroom scattered with construction paper and glitter. They stood there for a long moment, the silence stretching between them like new territory neither knew how to navigate. Lauren brushed ineffectually at the glitter on her hands, spreading it rather than removing it. Evan noticed she was still kneeling on the floor and felt a surge of awkwardness at the informality of it all. She's wonderful, Lauren said finally, pushing herself to standing with less grace than she'd probably intended. You've done an incredible job with her. Thanks. She's pretty much raised herself, honestly. I just try not to mess it up too badly. Don't do that. The words came out sharper than seemed intended, and Lauren softened her tone immediately. Don't diminish what you've built here. She gestured around the carefully organized room, the evidence of love in every detail. This takes work. Intentional work. Give yourself credit. Evan didn't know what to say to that, so he just nodded and led her back to the living room, hyper-aware of how domestic this all felt. Showing his boss to the door like she was a friend who'd stopped by for dinner, not the woman who controlled his career trajectory. They stood in the entryway, and Evan finally worked up the courage to ask the question that had been burning in his mind since she'd appeared on his doorstep. Ms. Hale, why are you here? She looked at him for a long moment, and he saw something complicated move across her face. Calculation giving way to something rawer, more honest. Your text, Friday night. Evan's stomach dropped. I already apologized. I know. And I'm not here to make you apologize again. She took a breath, seemed to gather herself. Can we sit? They moved to the couch, carefully, maintaining appropriate distance, and Lauren stared at her hands for a moment before speaking. 5 years ago, I got a text like that, 2 a.m, from my husband's phone. Except he'd been dead for 3 hours. The air left Evan's lungs. His Apple Watch, Lauren continued, her voice steady but distant, like she was reciting someone else's story. It was still on his wrist when they brought him into the ER. Heart attack at 43. No warning, no previous symptoms. 1 minute he was working late at the office, the next he was gone. And his watch, synced to his phone, sent out this automatic message to his emergency contacts. I've taken a hard fall and I'm not responding. My location is with GPS coordinates to the hospital. Lauren, Evan started, using her first name without thinking. I'm telling you this, she cut him off gently, because when I read your text Friday night, I didn't see a professional boundary being crossed. I saw someone in pain reaching out to someone they've lost, and I couldn't just let it go. I couldn't just pretend it didn't happen and show up Monday morning like everything was fine because I know, her voice cracked slightly. I know what it's like to be drowning and trying to hide it from everyone around you. Evan felt something shift in his chest, some wall he'd been maintaining crumbling without permission. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. She looked at him directly now, and he saw exhaustion there, bone-deep weariness wrapped in expensive clothes and careful composure. I buried myself in work after David died. Built the firm into something bigger, better, more demanding. Told myself that was healing, that was moving forward. But watching you with Mia just now, seeing what you've built here, actual life, actual warmth, I realized I've just been surviving, going through motions, and I'm tired of it. The confession hung between them, vulnerable and raw. Outside, a neighbor's dog barked. A car drove past. Normal Sunday evening sounds that felt surreal against the weight of what they were discussing. Why did you really come here? Evan asked quietly. Lauren smiled, sad and tired and somehow hopeful all at once. Honestly, I don't know. I just knew I couldn't ignore that text. Couldn't pretend I didn't understand exactly what it meant to miss someone so much that you text them anyway, knowing they'll never respond. And I thought, maybe we could both use someone who understands. I'm not sure that's a good idea, Evan said, even as every lonely part of him screamed the opposite. You're my boss. There are boundaries, professional considerations. I know. Believe me, I've run through every HR concern and power dynamic issue on the drive over here. This is probably wildly inappropriate. She stood, smoothing down her sweater in a gesture that looked like armor going back up. But I'm not here as your boss, Evan. I'm here as someone who got a text at 2 a.m. and recognized a kindred spirit. What we do with that, if anything, is up to both of us. No pressure, no expectations. She moved toward the door, and Evan followed, his mind racing through implications and possibilities and fears. She paused at the threshold, glitter still visible on her hands in the porch light. Thank you, she said simply, for letting me in, for letting me see this. She gestured vaguely back toward Mia's room. It helped, more than you probably realize. Lauren, Evan said, and the name felt strange and right on his tongue. Would you want to come back? Next weekend, maybe? Mia's got a birthday party on Saturday, but Sunday we're usually pretty low-key, just talking, as people who understand. The smile that broke across her face was small but genuine, transforming her features into something younger, lighter. I'd like that very much. She was halfway down the porch steps when he called after her. Lauren, those coffees you brought, they're probably cold now. She turned back, eyebrow raised. Are you suggesting I stayed too long? I'm suggesting maybe next time bring them in a thermos. Her laugh, real and unguarded, echoed across his quiet street. Noted. Good night, Evan. Good night. He watched her drive away, then stood on his porch for a long moment, breathing in the cool evening air and trying to process what had just happened. Inside, he could hear Mia singing to herself during her nightly routine, blissfully unaware that her father's carefully maintained walls had just developed some serious cracks. His phone buzzed. A text from Lauren. Thank you for tonight, and for what it's worth, that text wasn't sent to the wrong person, just to someone who needed to receive it. Evan stared at the message for a long time, then typed back, See you next Sunday. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, looking forward to it. He went inside to tuck Mia into bed, and for the first time in 8 months, the ache in his chest felt like it might eventually, possibly, someday, become something other than just pain. Monday morning arrived with all its usual chaos. Mia couldn't find her left shoe, breakfast burned, traffic was worse than normal. But Evan walked into Hale and Morrison Architecture with something that felt dangerously close to lightness in his step. The office operated exactly as it always did. Lauren was already at her desk when he arrived, dressed in her usual armor of tailored precision. She glanced up as he passed her open door, gave him the smallest nod, professional, appropriate, completely unremarkable to anyone watching, and returned to her computer screen. But Evan had seen the slight quirk at the corner of her mouth, had caught the way her eyes held his for just a fraction longer than necessary. He settled at his desk, pulled up the Morrison renovation project, and tried very hard to focus on load-bearing walls instead of the fact that his boss had spent Sunday evening on his daughter's bedroom floor talking about penguins and loss and the weight of surviving. Brooks! Well, James Chen, one of the junior architects, appeared at his cubicle with his usual Monday morning energy. Did you finish the elevation drawings for the Riverside project? Sent them Friday. Check your email. You're a lifesaver. Hey, is it just me or does Hale seem different today? Evan's fingers stilled on his keyboard. Different how? I don't know. Less terrifying? She actually smiled when Martinez asked for a deadline extension. Smiled, Brooks. I didn't know her face could do that. Maybe she had a good weekend, Evan said carefully, pulling up a new schematic and trying to look busy. Whatever it was, I hope it lasts. A less scary Hale means a less scary Monday. James wandered off toward the break room, already scrolling through his phone. Evan allowed himself a small smile. Then his computer pinged with a new message, internal office chat from L. Hale. The Morrison client wants to move the meeting to Thursday. Can you make that work? Professional, standard. Exactly the kind of message she sent a dozen times a day. He typed back, Thursday works fine. A pause. Then, also, Mia's diorama. Did the ice hold overnight? Evan felt something warm settle in his chest. Still intact. She's planning to add snowflakes tonight. Tell her I'm impressed. That's advanced technique for second grade. Will do. Another pause, longer this time. The chat window showed L. Hale is typing, then nothing. Then typing again. Finally, thank you again for yesterday. It meant more than I probably conveyed. Evan glanced toward her office. Through the glass walls, he could see her at her desk, staring at her computer with an expression that looked almost nervous, an emotion he'd never associated with Lauren Hale before. He typed, Same. See you Sunday? I'll bring better coffee. Deal. He returned to his work, and for the first time since Sarah died, Monday morning felt like something other than just endurance. Felt like maybe, possibly, the beginning of something he didn't yet have words for. By Wednesday, the office had noticed something was different. Nothing dramatic. Lauren still ran meetings with her usual precision, still sent back design revisions with exacting standards, still maintained the professional distance that made Hale and Morrison one of the most respected firms in the city. But there were small shifts. A patience in her critiques that hadn't existed before. A willingness to listen to alternative approaches. Once, Evan heard her laugh at something Marcus Chen said, a real laugh that made several junior staff members look up in surprise. She's definitely seen someone, Jennifer Walsh declared at Thursday's lunch table, where the associates gathered to decompress and gossip. That's the only explanation. Or she won the lottery, James suggested, or started meditating, or discovered really good antidepressants. I'm telling you, it's a man or a woman. I don't judge. But that is the glow of someone getting regular. Okay, Evan interrupted loudly, suddenly very interested in his sandwich. Maybe she just had a good weekend. People are allowed to be in good moods. Jennifer raised an eyebrow. Brooks, you're defending Hale? Since when? I'm not defending anyone. I'm just saying we don't need to speculate about her personal life. He's right, Marcus said, appearing with his own lunch tray. Hale's business is her own, though I will say, whatever's changed, I appreciate it. She approved the budget increase for the West Side project without her usual third-degree interrogation. The conversation drifted to other topics, the West Side project, an upcoming firm retreat, whether the coffee in the break room had gotten worse or they'd all just built up immunity. Evan contributed when necessary, but mostly focused on not looking at Lauren's office, where he could see her on a phone call, gesturing with one hand while she talked. His phone buzzed. A text from Lauren. Lunch meeting ran late. Can we push our Morrison discussion to 3? He typed back, no problem. 3 works. Then, because he was apparently feeling bold, Jennifer Walsh thinks you're seeing someone. The response came immediately. Jennifer Walsh needs a hobby. Want me to tell her that? Please don't. I have to work with these people. Fair point. See you at 3. Bring the updated elevations. And Brooks? Yes? This is fun. The secret. Having someone who knows. Evan stared at that message for a long moment, warmth spreading through his chest. Yeah, it is. Friday evening, Evan picked Mia up from her after-school program and found her practically vibrating with excitement. Daddy, guess what? What? Mrs. Peterson said my penguin diorama is the best she's ever seen in 15 years of teaching. She wants to put it in the display case in the main hallway. That's amazing, sweetheart. Evan swung her up despite her getting too big for it, her delighted shriek echoing across the parking lot. I'm so proud of you. Can we tell Ms. Hale? She helped with the hard part. She should know it's going in the display case. Evan's heart did something complicated in his chest. I'm sure she'd love to hear about it. Can we call her? Maybe we can tell her on Sunday when she comes over. Mia's eyes went wide. She's coming back? If that's okay with you. Are you kidding? Yes. Can we make cookies? Miss Hale seems like someone who would like cookies. I think everyone likes cookies, Mia. But special cookies. The good kind with chocolate chips, not the boring kind. They spent Friday evening making chocolate chip cookies from scratch, Mia's favorite recipe that Sarah had taught her before she got too sick to bake. Evan stood at the counter, helping Mia measure flour and crack eggs, and tried not to think too hard about the fact that his daughter was already planning how to impress his boss with baked goods. Daddy? Mia asked, while they waited for the first batch to finish baking. Yeah, sweetheart? Do you like Ms. Hale? Evan's hand stilled on the mixing bowl. Of course I like her. She's my boss. She's a good person. No, I mean, do you like her? Mia's gap-toothed grin was way too knowing for 7 years old. Where did you even learn that phrase? Hannah's sister is in 5th grade. She knows everything about liking people. Hannah's sister is 11. She knows approximately nothing about liking people. But do you? Mia persisted. Because she's pretty, and she was really nice to me, and you smiled a lot when she was here. Evan crouched down to Mia's eye level, brushing a streak of flour off her cheek. Ms. Hale is a friend, someone who understands some hard stuff that Daddy has been dealing with. Is that okay? Mia considered this with the seriousness of a judge. Is she sad like you? The question hit him sideways. What do you mean, like me? You get sad sometimes. At night, when you think I'm asleep. I hear you walking around, and sometimes you look at pictures of Mommy and cry. Her small hand reached up to touch his face. Does Ms. Hale get sad like that too? Evan pulled his daughter into a hug, breathing in the smell of her shampoo and cookie dough and childhood innocence. Yeah, baby, she gets sad like that too. She lost someone she loved, just like we did. Then she should definitely come over more, Mia declared with the simple logic of children who hadn't yet learned that grief was complicated. Because you're always less sad when people come over. And I liked making the penguin ice with her. She's good at being careful. She is good at being careful, Evan agreed, standing and ruffling her hair. Now, let's check those cookies before they burn. They spent the rest of the evening in comfortable domesticity, cookies and milk, a board game that Mia won through what Evan suspected was strategic cheating, a bedtime story about brave penguins exploring Antarctica. Normal, easy, tinged with something that felt like anticipation. After Mia was asleep, Evan found himself standing in his own kitchen, staring at the container of fresh cookies, and wondering when his life had gotten so complicated. 2 weeks ago, everything was simple. Hard, but simple. He got up, got Mia to school, went to work, came home, survived until bedtime, repeated. The grief was constant but manageable, a weight he'd learned to carry without collapsing under it. Now Lauren Hale had walked through his door holding coffee and curiosity, and suddenly the simple trajectory felt less certain. He didn't know what was happening between them. Friendship, mutual understanding, something more complicated that neither of them was ready to name. He just knew that for the first time in 8 months, he was looking forward to Sunday. His phone buzzed. Lauren, how did Mia react to the diorama news? She's planning to put it in her college applications. It's good to have goals. She also made you cookies. She what? Chocolate chip. The good kind, apparently. There are boring kinds I wasn't previously aware of. I'm honored and slightly terrified. Is this a test? Should I be studying? Evan laughed out loud in his quiet kitchen. Just be prepared to discuss Antarctic ice formation and penguin sliding techniques. I've been researching all week. I'm ready. Of course you have. Brooks, I don't do anything halfway. You should know this by now. He did know this. It was why her architecture projects were flawless, why her firm had the best reputation in 3 states, why she'd built walls so high that even grief couldn't breach them. Until, apparently, now. See you Sunday, he typed. 2 p.m., I'll be there. With good coffee. Looking forward to it. He set down his phone and looked around his kitchen. At the cookie crumbs on the counter, at Mia's artwork on the fridge, at the life he'd built from the wreckage of losing Sarah. It wasn't perfect. It was held together with routine and determination and the terrifying love he had for his daughter. But it was real. It was honest. And maybe, just maybe, there was room in it for someone who understood that survival and living weren't always the same thing. Sunday couldn't come fast enough. Sunday arrived with the kind of perfect autumn weather that felt almost deliberate. Crisp air, brilliant sunshine, leaves turning colors that belonged in paintings rather than suburban neighborhoods. Mia had been up since dawn, reorganizing her stuffed animals 3 times and checking the cookie container every 15 minutes to make sure they were still perfect. Daddy, what if she doesn't like chocolate chips? Mia asked for the 4th time, standing in front of her closet with the intensity of someone selecting an outfit for a presidential inauguration. Everyone likes chocolate chips, sweetheart. We've been through this. But what if she's allergic? What if we kill her with cookies? Evan looked up from where he was wiping down kitchen counters that were already clean. If she was allergic to chocolate, she would have mentioned it, and we're not going to kill anyone with baked goods. Hannah's sister says you should always make a good impression on important people. Hannah's sister is 11 and has never had a job interview in her life. Mia emerged from her closet wearing her favorite dress, the blue one with sunflowers that Sarah had bought her last spring. She'd been saving it for special occasions, and apparently Lauren's second visit qualified. How do I look? Beautiful. But you know Ms. Hale is just coming over to hang out, right? It's not a fancy party. I know, but Hannah's sister also says that presentation matters. Evan was going to have words with Hannah's sister. Come here. He knelt down, straightening the collar of Mia's dress, even though it didn't need straightening. Ms. Hale already thinks you're wonderful. You don't have to impress her. But what if she stops coming over? What if she decides we're boring? The vulnerability in his daughter's voice caught Evan off guard. Hey, look at me. He waited until her brown eyes, Sarah's eyes, met his. Nobody could ever find you boring, and Ms. Hale isn't going anywhere. She's coming over because she wants to, not because she has to, okay? Okay. Mia threw her arms around his neck and Evan held her, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo and wondering when his 7-year-old had started worrying about whether people would stay. The doorbell rang at exactly 2 o'clock, because of course Lauren Hale was the kind of person who arrived on time even for casual Sunday visits. Mia raced to answer it, nearly tripping over her own feet in her excitement. Lauren stood on the porch wearing jeans again, different ones this time, darker, and a soft burgundy sweater that made her look approachable in a way her work clothes never did. She held a thermos in one hand and what looked like a bakery box in the other, her hair pulled back in a casual ponytail that Evan had never seen her wear before. Hi, Ms. Hale! Mia practically vibrated with enthusiasm. Do you like my dress? And we made you cookies! And guess what? My penguin diorama is going in the display case. Lauren's face broke into a genuine smile, the kind that reached her eyes and erased years from her features. Your dress is lovely. I'm very excited about cookies, and congratulations on the display case. That's a huge honor. Mrs. Peterson said it's the best diorama she's seen in 15 years. 15. That's older than me. That's incredibly impressive. Lauren stepped inside and Evan watched as she seemed to consciously shed some invisible layer of formality at the threshold, her shoulders relaxing, her expression softening. I brought bagels. I wasn't sure if you'd had lunch yet, and I figured you can never have too many carbs on a Sunday. You brought food to my house? Evan took the bakery box, surprisingly heavy. I was supposed to be the host here. Consider it a collaborative effort. I'm very good at delegating. She held up the thermos. Also, as promised, coffee that will stay hot for approximately 6 hours. I learned from last week's tactical error. Mia giggled. Daddy said your coffee was cold before you even drank it. Your father was correct. which is why I invested in superior technology. Lauren set the thermos on the kitchen counter, looking around with the same careful attention she'd shown last week. Something smells amazing. We made chocolate chip cookies, Mia announced. The good kind, not the boring kind. I wasn't aware there were boring kinds of chocolate chip cookies. That's what Daddy said, but Hannah's sister says some people use milk chocolate instead of semi-sweet, and that's basically a crime. Lauren's eyebrows rose. Hannah's sister sounds like someone with very strong opinions. She's in 5th grade. She knows everything. The confidence of an 11-year-old is truly unmatched, Lauren said solemnly, catching Evan's eye with a look of shared amusement that felt dangerously intimate. They settled into an easy rhythm, bagels and coffee at the kitchen table, while Mia provided running commentary on everything from her week at school to the complex social dynamics of 2nd grade recess. Lauren listened with what seemed like genuine interest, asking follow-up questions and offering observations that made Mia light up with the joy of being taken seriously by an adult. And then Marcus, not your Marcus, Daddy, a different Marcus, said that girls can't be astronauts, which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, because obviously girls can be astronauts. Right, Ms. Hale? Absolutely right. Some of the most accomplished astronauts in history have been women. Would you like me to send you a list? You could bring it to school and educate this Marcus person. Mia's eyes went wide. Really? You'd do that? Consider it done. Fighting ignorance with facts is one of my favorite activities. Evan watched this exchange with something warm and complicated blooming in his chest. Lauren wasn't just being polite or going through the motions of engaging with a child. She was genuinely connecting, meeting Mia at her level without condescension, treating her concerns as worthy of real attention. After lunch, Mia dragged Lauren to the living room to show her the new additions to her stuffed animal collection, a process that required detailed backstory for each new member of what Mia called the council. This is Professor Whiskers. He's the oldest and wisest. And this is Lady Butterscotch. She's new but very brave. She once fought off a terrible dragon who was actually just the vacuum cleaner, but still. Lauren settled onto the floor with the same ease she'd shown last week, examining each stuffed animal with appropriate gravity. The council sounds very well organized. Do they have regular meetings? Every Thursday. We discuss important matters like bedtime negotiations and vegetable policies. Those are crucial issues. What's the current vegetable policy? Carrots are acceptable. Broccoli is under review. Brussels sprouts are banned forever. A reasonable stance, Lauren nodded seriously. Though I should mention that roasted Brussels sprouts with a little olive oil and salt are actually quite good. Mia looked scandalized. Ms. Hale, I thought we were friends. We are friends. Friends can disagree about vegetables. But Brussels sprouts smell like feet. That's a fair criticism. Have you tried them roasted? No, because they smell like feet. Lauren glanced at Evan, who was watching from the doorway with barely concealed amusement. Your daughter makes compelling arguments. She gets that from her mother, Evan said, the words slipping out before he could think better of them. The room went quiet for just a moment, the weight of Sarah's absence suddenly present in a way it hadn't been moments before. But Mia, with the resilience of children who'd learned to carry grief without being crushed by it, just nodded. Mommy hated Brussels sprouts too. She said they were little green balls of sadness. Lauren's expression shifted, something soft and understanding moving across her features. Your mother sounds like she had excellent taste. She did. Do you want to see her picture? We have lots. Evan tensed, unsure how to navigate this moment, but Lauren just said, I'd love to, if you want to show me. Mia bounded to the mantel where several framed photographs sat in careful arrangement. Sarah at their wedding, Sarah holding newborn Mia, Sarah laughing at something off camera with the kind of joy that seemed to radiate from the image itself. Mia picked up the largest frame, the one from their last family vacation before Sarah got sick, and handed it to Lauren with careful reverence. That's Mommy. She was really pretty and funny, and she made the best pancakes even though Daddy's are okay too. Thanks for that ringing endorsement, Evan murmured. Lauren studied the photograph with genuine attention, and Evan watched her face carefully, looking for signs of discomfort or pity or the awkward sympathy that most people offered when confronted with his dead wife's image. Instead, he saw only kindness. She was beautiful, Lauren said quietly. You have her smile, Mia. Daddy says I have her stubbornness too. That's probably also useful. Lauren handed the frame back with careful hands. Thank you for sharing her with me. Mia replaced the photograph on the mantel, adjusting it slightly to get the angle perfect, then turned back to Lauren with the swift topic changes of childhood. Do you want to help me build a fort? Daddy's not very good at structural integrity. I'm an architect, Evan protested. Structural integrity is literally my job. Yeah, but you always make the blankets too tight and then they fall down. Lauren stood, brushing imaginary dust from her jeans. I think I can help with that. I did spend 4 years studying load distribution and material tension. Perfect. You can be the chief engineer and Daddy can be the assistant who brings pillows. I'm being demoted in my own house, Evan said, but he was smiling as he gathered throw pillows and watched his daughter and his boss begin negotiating the optimal placement of blanket forts using terms that were probably overkill for a Sunday afternoon project, but that made Mia glow with importance. An hour later, they'd constructed what was objectively the most structurally sound blanket fort Evan had ever seen. Lauren had taken Mia's creative vision and translated it into something that actually worked, using couch cushions as load-bearing walls and carefully distributed tension across the draped sheets to create a space that felt both cozy and impressively stable. Now we have to test it, Mia declared, crawling inside with a flashlight and several stuffed animals. Come on, Mrs. Hale, you have to see if it works from the inside. Lauren glanced at Evan, a question in her eyes. He shrugged, grinning. You're the chief engineer. Quality control is part of the job. She crawled into the fort with Mia, folding her tall frame into the limited space with less grace than his daughter, but more determination. Evan heard them talking inside, Mia's excited chatter punctuated by Lauren's lower voice offering what sounded like professional assessment of the fort's interior design qualities. He stood there in his living room, surrounded by displaced furniture and scattered pillows, listening to his daughter giggle inside a blanket fort with a woman who 48 hours ago had been nothing more than his boss, and felt something shift in his chest. Not the sharp pain of grief he'd grown accustomed to, but something gentler, something that felt almost like healing. Daddy, you have to come in, Mia's voice emerged from the fort. There's room. Barely, Lauren added, her tone dry but amused. Evan crawled in, immediately regretting it as his shoulders hit the blanket ceiling and he had to contort himself to avoid knocking down Lauren's carefully engineered structure. They ended up in a tangle of limbs and laughter. Mia in the middle, Evan on one side, Lauren on the other, all three of them crammed into a space that was really only meant for one 7-year-old and her stuffed animals. This is cozy, Lauren said, her shoulder pressed against Evan's in the confined space. This is a fire hazard, Evan corrected, but he was smiling. This is perfect, Mia declared with the absolute certainty of childhood. Now we're all in the fort together. That means we're fort friends. Is that different from regular friends? Lauren asked. Obviously. Fort friends are more special because you've shared a fort. It's like a bond. I wasn't aware of this rule. Hannah's sister told me. She knows everything, remember? Right, the omniscient 11-year-old. They stayed in the fort longer than was comfortable, Mia telling elaborate stories about the stuffed animals while Evan and Lauren listened with varying degrees of comprehension. At some point, Evan became acutely aware of Lauren's proximity. The warmth of her shoulder against his, the scent of her perfume mixing with the detergent smell of the blankets, the way she laughed at Mia's jokes with genuine delight rather than adult obligation. When they finally extracted themselves, Mia declaring that she needed to use the bathroom and also check on the cookies, Evan and Lauren found themselves alone in the living room, surrounded by the remains of their construction project. I should probably help clean this up, Lauren said, but she didn't move immediately. It can wait. Evan sat on the couch, suddenly exhausted in a good way. Thank you. For this. For being so good with her. Lauren settled beside him, maintaining careful distance that somehow felt more deliberate than accidental. She's an easy kid to be good with. Smart, funny, kind. You've raised an exceptional human. She's raised herself, mostly. I just try to keep her alive and reasonably educated. Oh, stop doing that. Lauren's voice held the same firm edge he recognized from work critiques. Stop diminishing what you've built. I've seen a lot of families, client meetings, site visits, firm events. I know what good parenting looks like. This, she gestured around the room, encompassing the photographs and the fort and the general warmth of the space, is good parenting. Evan looked at her, really looked at her, without the filter of professional hierarchy or careful boundaries. She looked tired, he realized. Not physically tired, but soul tired, the kind of exhaustion that came from carrying weight alone for too long. "Can I ask you something?" he said quietly. "Of course." "Why are you really here? And don't say it's just about understanding grief or recognizing a kindred spirit. There's something else." Lauren was quiet for a long moment, her gaze fixed on the blanket fort. When she spoke, her voice was softer than he'd ever heard it. "I've spent 5 years being fine, being professional, being the boss, the leader, the person who has everything under control. And I thought I was doing okay. I thought that was enough. But then I got your text, and I saw myself in it, this desperate reaching out to someone who can't answer back. And I realized I haven't been okay. I've just been pretending really, really well." She turned to face him, and Evan saw vulnerability there that made his chest ache. "Coming here last week, seeing you with Mia, watching you build this life from grief, it reminded me that survival and living aren't the same thing. You're living, Evan. Despite everything, you're actually living, and I needed to remember what that looked like. I'm barely keeping it together most days," Evan admitted. "The living part is mostly just showing up and hoping I don't screw it up too badly. That's more than I've been doing. I show up to work, I go home, I exist in the space between. There's no joy in it, no connection. Just competence and efficiency and empty apartments." She laughed, but it sounded hollow. "Do you know what I did last Saturday night before I came here? I worked on a weekend on designs for a project that isn't due for 3 months because I didn't know what else to do with myself. And now? Now I'm sitting in a blanket fort with a single dad and his daughter eating cookies, and it's the most alive I've felt in years." She met his eyes. "So to answer your question, I'm here because you reminded me that there's more to life than just getting through it. And maybe if I'm around people who actually live instead of just exist, I might remember how to do it too." The honesty of it hit Evan like a wave. He wanted to say something profound, something that would match the weight of her confession, but before he could find the words, Mia reappeared with the cookie container. "Okay, now it's time for the cookie test. Ms. Hale has to try one and give it a rating out of 10. Hannah's sister says professional feedback is important." Lauren accepted a cookie with appropriate ceremony, taking a bite while Mia watched with the intensity of someone awaiting a jury verdict. "These are excellent, easily a 9.5. "Why not 10? Mia demanded. "Because I believe in always leaving room for improvement. But these are genuinely some of the best chocolate chip cookies I've ever had." "Better than store-bought?" "Infinitely better than store-bought." Mia beamed, then handed a cookie to Evan. "What's your rating, Daddy?" "Bias 10. Everything you make is perfect." "That doesn't count. You're my dad. You have to say that." She turned back to Lauren. "Do you want to take some home? We made a lot." "I would love that. Thank you." They spent the rest of the afternoon in easy companionship, cookies and coffee, a card game that Mia won through what Evan was now certain was deliberate cheating, conversation that flowed between serious and silly without jarring transitions. Lauren told stories about her own childhood, about growing up in Boston with 2 older brothers who taught her to defend herself and never back down from an argument. Mia shared elaborate plans for her future career as either an astronaut veterinarian or a professional penguin researcher, both of which Lauren treated as equally valid ambitions. As the light began to fade toward evening, Evan found himself not wanting the day to end. There was something comfortable about this. The 3 of them in his living room, no pretense or performance, just genuine connection. It felt dangerous and right in equal measure. "I should probably go," Lauren said reluctantly as the clock approached 6. "Early meeting tomorrow with the Morrison clients." "Do you have to?" Mia asked, then caught herself. "I mean, you can come back, right? Next Sunday?" Lauren looked at Evan, and he saw the question there. Permission, maybe, or hope. "If your dad says it's okay." "It's okay," Evan said, and meant it more than was probably wise. More than okay. "Then yes," Lauren told Mia. "I'll come back next Sunday. Maybe we can work on your astronaut training?" "Really?" You know about astronaut training? I know about structural engineering, which is relevant to spacecraft design. We can research the rest together. Mia hugged Lauren goodbye with the same enthusiastic affection she'd shown the previous week, and Evan walked Lauren to the door, acutely aware that he didn't want her to leave, but unsure how to say that without making it weird. "Thank you," Lauren said quietly, standing on the porch in the gathering dusk, "for letting me be part of this. Your life, your daughter, your Sunday. It means more than I can properly express." "You're welcome here any time," Evan said. "Really. Not just Sundays. If you want company or conversation, or just somewhere that isn't an empty apartment, we're here." Something shifted in her expression, gratitude mixing with something more complex. "Be careful making offers like that, Brooks. I might actually take you up on them." "I'm counting on it." She smiled, small and genuine, then surprised him by reaching out and squeezing his hand, brief, warm, loaded with meaning he didn't quite know how to interpret. "See you at work tomorrow." "And Evan?" "Yeah? Thank you for not treating me like just your boss, for letting me be a person instead of a position." "You've never been just a boss to me." The words came out before he could think better of them, honest and raw and maybe too revealing. Lauren held his gaze for a long moment, and Evan saw something flicker there, awareness maybe, or the beginning of something neither of them was ready to name. Then she released his hand, stepped back, and the moment passed into something safer, more manageable. "Good night, Evan." "Good night, Lauren." He watched her drive away, then returned inside to find Mia already in her pajamas, surrounded by stuffed animals, in what appeared to be an emergency council meeting. "Is Mrs. Hale your girlfriend?" Mia asked without preamble. Evan nearly choked on air. "What? No, why would you think that?" "Because you smiled a lot today, and you touched her hand, and you looked at her the way Prince Charming looks at Cinderella in the movie." "I did not look at her like anything. She's my boss, and my friend. That's all." Mia gave him a look that was far too knowing for 7 years old. "Okay, Daddy, if you say so." "I do say so. Now get in bed before you start planning a wedding." "I'm just saying, if you did like her, that would be okay. She's nice, and she knows about penguins. Those are important qualities." Evan tucked her in, kissed her forehead, and tried very hard not to think about the fact that his 7-year-old daughter was apparently more emotionally perceptive than he was. "Good night, sweetheart. Love you. Love you too. Even though you're bad at recognizing obvious things. Sleep. Now." She giggled and snuggled into her blankets, and Evan retreated to his own room, where he lay awake for a long time staring at the ceiling and trying to figure out what exactly was happening between him and Lauren Hale. His phone buzzed. A text from Lauren. "Home safe. Thank you again for today. Your daughter is right about the cookies. They're exceptional. She'll be thrilled to hear professional confirmation. Also, I may have looked up astronaut training programs on the drive home. Apparently NASA has very specific requirements. Of course you did. I like to be prepared. See you tomorrow, Brooks." "See you tomorrow." He set down his phone and smiled into the darkness. And for the first time since Sarah died, the empty space beside him felt like possibility instead of just absence. Monday morning brought reality crashing back with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. Evan walked into Hale and Morrison Architecture to find the office in controlled chaos. The Morrison clients had moved their Thursday meeting to today. Marcus Chen was frantically reworking budget projections, and Jennifer Walsh was speed-walking between cubicles with the manic energy of someone who'd consumed her body weight in espresso. "Brooks, thank God!" Jennifer grabbed his arm the moment he set down his bag. "The Morrison renderings, please tell me they're done." "They were done Friday. I sent them to..." "Lauren, I know, but she wants revisions before the clients see them. Something about the courtyard sightlines not matching the original proposal." Jennifer thrust a marked-up printout at him. "Can you fix this in the next 2 hours?" Evan scanned the notes, recognizing Lauren's precise handwriting. The requested changes were reasonable but detailed, the kind of thing that would require complete focus and probably more than 2 hours. "I'll do my best." "Your best better be spectacular because these clients are notorious perfectionists, and if we lose this contract, Marcus is going to have an aneurysm." Jennifer was already walking away, her phone pressed to her ear. "Yes, I'm aware the budget is tight. That's why I'm calling you at 7 in the morning. Evan settled at his desk and pulled up the Morrison files, pushing aside thoughts of yesterday's blanket forts and cookie ratings to focus on load calculations and structural revisions. He was deep in the work when his computer pinged with an internal message. Lauren Hale, I know the timeline is aggressive. If you need an extra hour, I can stall them. He typed back, I can make it work. The courtyard changes are good catches. You would have caught them eventually. I just have the advantage of obsessive review habits. Is that what we're calling perfectionism now? I prefer commitment to excellence. Sounds better on performance reviews. Despite the pressure, Evan smiled. There was something surreal about this, exchanging work messages with the same person who'd been crawling around in a blanket fort with his daughter less than 24 hours ago. Like living in two different worlds simultaneously and trying not to get whiplash from the transitions. He finished the revisions with 15 minutes to spare and sent them to Lauren's queue, then grabbed coffee from the break room while waiting for her response. Marcus Chen intercepted him at the coffee maker, looking harried. Brooks, how confident are you in those courtyard revisions? Very. The sightlines were off by about 6 degrees. It would have been noticeable once construction started. Good. Lauren's already in the conference room setting up. Clients arriving in 10. Marcus grabbed his own coffee, dumped in 3 sugars, and gave Evan a considering look. You've been doing solid work lately, more focused. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. Evan wasn't sure how to respond to that, so he just nodded and returned to his desk. Another message from Lauren was waiting. Revisions are perfect. You just saved us from a very awkward conversation with very particular clients. Thank you. Just doing my job. You do it well. See you in the presentation. The Morrison meeting went better than anyone expected. The clients loved the revised courtyard design, approved the budget with minimal pushback, and even complimented the team's attention to detail. Lauren ran the presentation with her usual precision, but Evan noticed small differences now that he knew what to look for. The way she made eye contact with each team member when acknowledging their contributions, the patience in her voice when answering questions, the genuine smile when the client signed off on the next phase. After they left, Marcus actually hugged Lauren, which seemed to startle them both. I'm sorry, he said, releasing her immediately. That was unprofessional. I'm just very relieved. It's fine, Marcus. We all worked hard on this. Lauren's eyes found Evan across the conference room. Especially Brooks. Those last-minute revisions were crucial. Team effort, Evan said, uncomfortable with the attention. Team effort led by exceptional individual contributions, Lauren corrected. Everyone here should be proud. The rest of the week settled into a rhythm that felt both familiar and strange. At work, Lauren was still their boss, demanding, precise, holding everyone to impossibly high standards. But there were subtle shifts, a patience in her critiques that hadn't existed before, a willingness to listen to alternative approaches. Once Evan caught her laughing at something Marcus said, a real laugh that made several junior staff members look up in surprise. And then there were the messages. Nothing inappropriate, nothing that would raise eyebrows if someone happened to see them, but threaded through the professional communications were tiny personal notes that felt like secrets. Tuesday afternoon. Mia's astronaut research packet is ready. Turns out NASA has very specific height requirements. She might need to grow a few more inches. Wednesday morning. I tried making chocolate chip cookies last night. They were inedible. Apparently following a recipe requires actually measuring ingredients rather than approximating. Thursday evening. Marcus asked if I was seeing someone. I told him I'd recently reconnected with an old friend. Not technically a lie. Evan found himself waiting for these messages, checking his phone more often than was probably healthy, smiling at his screen in ways that Jennifer Walsh definitely noticed. You're in a good mood lately, she commented Friday afternoon, appearing at his cubicle with the stealth of a corporate ninja. New girlfriend? No, just had a good week. Uh-huh. And the constant phone checking is because... Jennifer, do you have actual work to discuss, or are you just here to interrogate me about my personal life? Can it be both? She perched on the edge of his desk, shameless in her curiosity. Come on, Brooks. You've been different lately. Less sad. More engaged. Something changed. Evan considered how to respond. Jennifer was nosy, but not malicious, and he'd known her long enough to recognize genuine concern beneath the gossip. I've been spending time with someone who understands some stuff I've been dealing with. It's helped. Good. You deserve that. She stood, then paused. For what it's worth, whoever she is, she's good for you. Don't let her get away. After Jennifer left, Evan stared at his computer screen without really seeing it. Was Lauren good for him? Probably. Was he good for her? Less clear. Was whatever was developing between them sustainable, or were they just two lonely people finding temporary comfort in shared grief? His phone buzzed. Lauren, Sunday plans still good? Mia mentioned something about astronaut training, and I may have acquired some supplies. What kind of supplies? The kind that may or may not involve teaching a 7-year-old about spacecraft trajectory using household items and questionable physics. That sounds either amazing or like a lawsuit waiting to happen. I'm an engineer. I know what I'm doing. Mostly. See you at 2? Looking forward to it. Evan pocketed his phone and tried to focus on the schematics in front of him, but his mind kept drifting to Sunday, to the easy warmth of Lauren in his home, to the way Mia lit up around her, to the dangerous comfort of letting someone new into their carefully constructed life. Saturday brought complications. Evan was helping Mia with her homework when his phone rang, his brother Marcus, calling from 3 states away with the impeccable timing of siblings everywhere. Hey, little brother, how's single parenthood treating you? Same as always? Exhausting and terrifying with occasional moments of joy. So basically like regular parenthood, but with more guilt and no one to blame when things go wrong. Thanks for that summary. Was there a reason you called, or are you just checking in on my mental state? Marcus's voice shifted, losing some of its casual humor. Actually, yeah. Mom mentioned you've been different lately. Lighter, she said. Wanted me to see if everything was okay. Evan moved into the kitchen where Mia couldn't hear, lowering his voice. Everything's fine. Good, actually. I've just been getting out more, spending time with people. People or a person? Why does everyone assume I'm dating someone? Because you've been a hermit for 8 months and now you're suddenly lighter and getting out more. It doesn't take a detective, Evan, so who is she? Evan leaned against the counter, debating how much to share. Marcus had been his rock after Sarah died, fielding late-night phone calls and flying out for the funeral despite his own demanding job. If anyone deserved honesty, it was him. Someone from work. We've been spending time together on weekends. She lost her husband a few years ago, so we understand each other's situation. Silence on the other end, then, Evan, please tell me you're not dating your boss. I'm not dating my boss. We're friends. She comes over, hangs out with Mia. We talk about grief and parenting and life. That's all. That's all right now, Marcus said carefully. But what happens when it becomes more? You realize the power dynamic there is problematic at best, right? I'm aware of the complications, Marcus. I'm not an idiot. I'm not saying you're an idiot. I'm saying you're lonely and grieving and maybe not thinking clearly about what you're getting into. The words stung because they were partially true. Evan was lonely. He was grieving. And maybe he wasn't thinking entirely clearly about Lauren and what was happening between them. But he also knew that what they had, whatever it was, felt real and necessary in a way he couldn't explain. I appreciate the concern, Evan said, keeping his voice level, but I'm handling it. Evan, I have to go. Mia needs help with her math homework. He hung up before Marcus could push further, then stood in his kitchen, feeling the familiar weight of doubt settling over him. Was his brother right? Was he making a terrible mistake? The rational part of his brain knew all the reasons this was complicated. Workplace dynamics, grief as a foundation, the risk to his career if things went wrong. But then he thought about Lauren crawling into a blanket fort with Mia, about her texts throughout the week, about the way she looked at him like he was a person rather than just an employee. He thought about how she made Mia laugh and how she understood the specific weight of missing someone who would never come back. Daddy? Mia appeared in the kitchen doorway. Uncle Marcus is wrong, you know. You were eavesdropping. You were talking loud. She crossed her arms, looking far too serious for 7 years old. Ms. Hale is good. She makes you happy. Uncle Marcus doesn't understand because he didn't meet her. It's complicated, sweetheart. Adults always say that when they're scared of something good. Mia walked over and hugged him around the waist. Mommy would want you to be happy. She told me that before she died. She said Daddy deserves good things, and I should make sure you remember that. Evan's throat tightened. She said that to you? In the hospital, when you went to get coffee, she said you were the best person she knew and that someday you might meet someone else and that was okay. That I should help you be brave. He pulled Mia close, blinking back tears. Sarah had always been the brave one, facing her illness with a courage that had humbled him daily. Of course she would have thought about his future, about making sure he didn't spend the rest of his life alone. Of course she would have enlisted their daughter as an ally in that fight. Okay, he said quietly. I'll try to be brave. Good. Because Ms. Hale is coming tomorrow, and we need to set up the astronaut training course, and you promised we could make brownies. The moment of heaviness passed, replaced by Mia's irrepressible enthusiasm. Evan spent the rest of Saturday helping her plan an elaborate astronaut training program that involved obstacle courses, balance challenges, and what she called advanced space physics, but was really just dropping things from progressively higher places to see how they fell. Sunday morning, Mia was up before dawn again, this time arranging the living room into what looked like a combination gym and science lab. Evan watched her work with a mixture of amusement and mild concern. Are we sure this is safe? Ms. Hale is an engineer, Daddy. She knows about safety. Ms. Hale is a structural engineer, not an astronaut trainer. Close enough. When Lauren arrived at exactly 2 o'clock, she took one look at Mia's setup and burst out laughing. This is ambitious. I'm impressed and slightly terrified. I made a training manual. Mia thrust a crayon-illustrated booklet at her. It has all the challenges and scoring systems and everything. Lauren flipped through the pages, her expression shifting from amused to genuinely impressed. You created a comprehensive training program with progressive difficulty levels and safety protocols. Mia, this is actually excellent work. Hannah's sister helped with the organization, but the challenges are all mine. Hannah's sister continues to be a valuable resource. Lauren looked at Evan over Mia's head, her eyes dancing with laughter. Are you ready for this? I don't think anyone could be ready for this, but I'm willing to try. What followed was 2 hours of controlled chaos. Lauren took Mia's training program seriously, working through each challenge with the same attention to detail she brought to architectural projects. They tested balance by walking along a line of tape on the floor, practiced zero-gravity movement by seeing how slowly they could complete tasks, and conducted experiments in applied physics that mostly involved dropping eggs from increasingly questionable heights. Through it all, Lauren was patient and engaged, turning Mia's childish games into actual learning opportunities without making it feel like school. She explained trajectory and velocity in terms a 7-year-old could understand, demonstrated center of gravity using broom handles and books, and even improvised a lesson on air pressure using balloons and a hairdryer. Evan watched from the sidelines, ostensibly supervising but mostly just marveling at how naturally Lauren had integrated into their lives. She looked different here, relaxed, animated, years younger than her office persona. Her hair kept falling out of its ponytail, and she'd given up fixing it, letting it frame her face in a way that made her look approachable, almost vulnerable. Daddy, it's your turn, Mia announced. You have to do the balance challenge. I thought I was just here to provide moral support. Everyone has to do the challenges. That's the rule. Lauren grinned at him from where she sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by the remains of their physics experiments. Come on, Brooks, show us your astronaut potential. He attempted the balance challenge with significantly less grace than either of the women in his life, wobbling his way along the tape line while Mia provided running commentary on his form. Daddy, your arms are too stiff. Ms. Hale, tell him about center of gravity. Your daughter's right, Lauren said, standing up to demonstrate proper balance posture. You need to engage your core and keep your center of gravity low, like this. She moved beside him, and suddenly they were very close, her hands coming to rest lightly on his shoulders to adjust his stance. Evan froze, hyper-aware of her proximity, the warmth of her touch, the faint scent of her perfume. Better, she said quietly, and when he looked at her, he saw something in her eyes that had nothing to do with balance challenges or astronaut training, something that made his pulse quicken and his breath catch. This is boring, Mia declared, shattering the moment. You're both already good at balance. Let's do the egg drop experiment again. Lauren stepped back, clearing her throat. Right, eggs, very important scientific inquiry. They moved on to the next challenge, but something had shifted. Evan caught Lauren watching him when she thought he wasn't looking. Their hands brushed, reaching for supplies, and neither pulled away immediately. When Mia ran to the bathroom, they stood in the sudden quiet of the living room, surrounded by the evidence of the afternoon's activities, and Evan finally said what had been building in his chest for weeks. This is more than friendship, isn't it? Lauren met his eyes, and he saw his own uncertainty reflected there, mixed with something that looked like hope. I don't know. Maybe. Probably. I'm terrible at this, Evan. I haven't dated anyone since David died. Haven't even wanted to. And the fact that you're my employee makes this so complicated. I know. My brother called yesterday to tell me I was making a terrible mistake. Are we? Making a terrible mistake? Honestly? I have no idea. All I know is that you make me feel like a person again, instead of just a father and an employee. You make Mia laugh. You crawl into blanket forts and conduct egg drop experiments and text me about failed cookie attempts. And I look forward to Sundays more than I've looked forward to anything in 8 months. I renovated my entire condo this week, Lauren said suddenly, moved furniture, changed curtains, bought actual groceries instead of just eating takeout. Because being here with you and Mia reminded me that spaces are supposed to feel like homes, not just places to sleep between workdays. You've changed something in me, Evan. Woken something up that I thought died with David. So what do we do? I don't know. We could ignore it, maintain professional boundaries, keep things safely platonic. That would be the smart choice. Do you want to make the smart choice? Lauren laughed, shaky and honest. No, not even a little bit. But I also don't want to risk your career or make things awkward at work or mess up what you've built with Mia. Mia already thinks we're dating. She asked me last week if you were my girlfriend. What did you tell her? That you were my friend. But she gave me this look like she knew I was lying to myself. She's perceptive. She's 7. I'm back, Mia announced, bounding into the room with her usual perfect timing. Are we doing the final challenge, the one where we see who can hold their breath the longest? I'm not sure that's astronaut training, Evan said. It's for when the spaceship loses air pressure. We have to be prepared for emergencies. Lauren caught Evan's eye, a smile playing at her lips. Your daughter makes excellent points about emergency preparedness. They spent the next hour on Mia's final challenges, and if their fingers lingered when passing supplies, if their eyes met more often than strictly necessary, if the air between them felt charged with possibility, well, Mia was too busy being an astronaut in training to notice. As evening approached and they cleaned up the remains of their experiments, Mia turned to Lauren with sudden seriousness. Miss Hale, do you like my daddy? Lauren froze in the middle of gathering tape from the floor. Evan stopped breathing. Of course I like your daddy, Lauren said carefully. He's a very good person. No, I mean, do you like him? The way grown-ups like each other when they want to kiss and stuff? Mia! Evan felt his face burning. That's not... You can't just... It's okay, Lauren interrupted, setting down the tape and crouching to Mia's eye level. Can I ask you a question first? Mia nodded solemnly. How would you feel if I did like your daddy? Would that be okay with you? Mia considered this with the gravity of someone being consulted on matters of international importance. Will you still come over and do science experiments? Absolutely. Will you still help with my school projects? Whenever you need me. Will you be nice to Daddy and not make him sad? Lauren's expression softened. I promise to do my very best to make your daddy happy, not sad. Then it's okay. You can like him, but you have to promise one more thing. What's that? You have to promise that if you ever stop liking him, you'll tell us instead of just disappearing. Because Mommy disappeared and it was really hard and I don't want that to happen again. Evan's chest constricted. He wanted to intervene, to save Lauren from having to navigate his daughter's grief, but Lauren just pulled Mia into a hug. I promise, she said quietly, if anything ever changes, I will tell you both. No disappearing, okay? Okay. Mia hugged her back, then pulled away with her characteristic quick emotional shifts. Can we have brownies now? Daddy promised we could make brownies. Brownies sound perfect, Lauren said, standing and discreetly wiping at her eyes. They made brownies together in Evan's kitchen, the three of them working in comfortable coordination that felt practiced despite its newness. Mia explained the proper chocolate-to-batter ratio with the authority of a seasoned baker. Lauren helped measure ingredients with precision while Evan handled the actual oven operation. "This is nice," Lauren said quietly, while Mia was distracted by licking the spoon. "This whole day. Thank you for letting me be part of it. Thank you for being willing to participate in a 7-year-old's astronaut fantasies. Are you kidding? This was the best Sunday I've had in years." She paused, then added even more quietly, "Evan, about what Mia asked, you don't have to explain anything. I want to, because she deserves honesty, and so do you." Lauren set down the measuring cup and turned to face him fully. "I do like you. More than is probably wise given our professional relationship and the complexity of our situations. But I also don't want to rush into anything or make promises I can't keep. Can we just see where this goes, take it slow, figure things out as we go?" "I'd like that," Evan said. "Though I should warn you, I'm terrible at slow. I fall hard and fast. It's one of my less endearing qualities." "I'll keep that in mind." She smiled, small and genuine. "For now, how about we focus on not burning the brownies and see what happens?" "Deal." The brownies emerged from the oven perfectly. Crispy edges, gooey center, the kind of chocolate density that made Mia declare them restaurant quality. They ate warm brownies with ice cream, while Mia regaled them with increasingly elaborate plans for her future space station, which apparently needed to accommodate both astronauts and rescued penguins. When Lauren finally left, well past Mia's usual bedtime, she paused on the porch and reached for Evan's hand. The gesture was tentative, questioning, and when he laced his fingers through hers, her whole face lit up. "See you at work tomorrow," she said. "This is going to be complicated, isn't it?" "Probably catastrophically so, but I'm finding I don't care as much as I should." "Me neither." She squeezed his hand once, then let go and walked to her car. Evan watched her drive away, then returned inside to find Mia already in her pajamas, grinning at him with insufferable smugness. "You like her too," she announced. "I can tell." "Yes, I do." "Good. Now we can be a family again. Not the same family as before, but a new kind. Hannah's sister says that's called a blended family." "We're not a family yet, sweetheart. Ms. Hale and I are just figuring things out." "But you will be. I can tell." She hugged him goodnight, completely confident in her predictions. Hannah's sister is never wrong about these things. Evan tucked her in, kissed her forehead, and retreated to his own room where he lay awake thinking about Lauren's hand in his, about Mia's casual acceptance, about the terrifying possibility that maybe, just maybe, they were building something real from the wreckage of their separate griefs. His phone buzzed. Lauren, home safe. Still thinking about egg trajectories and brownie recipes and 7-year-olds with excellent instincts. She's already planning the wedding. Hannah's sister's influence? Obviously. For what it's worth, I'm not opposed to the general concept. Eventually, when we figure out what we're doing. Evan stared at that message for a long time, his heart doing complicated things in his chest. Me neither. Good night, Lauren. Good night, Evan. Sweet dreams. He set down his phone and smiled into the darkness, and for the first time since Sarah died, the future felt like something to look forward to, rather than just survive. The following weeks unfolded with a careful balance that required more coordination than either Evan or Lauren had anticipated. At work, they maintained professional distance, polite, appropriate, nothing that would raise eyebrows among colleagues who were already too interested in their boss's improved mood. But away from the office, something deeper was taking root. Lauren started coming over on Wednesdays too, claiming she needed to escape her condo's oppressive silence midweek. She'd arrive with takeout or ingredients for dinner, rolling up her sleeves to help Mia with homework while Evan finished up work emails. The domesticity of it should have felt strange. His boss chopping vegetables in his kitchen, discussing multiplication tables with his daughter. But instead it felt inevitable, like pieces of a puzzle finally clicking into place. Carry the two. Lauren was saying one Wednesday evening, leaning over Mia's math worksheet with the same focused intensity she brought to multi-million-dollar projects. What does that give you? 47, Mia announced triumphantly. Exactly right. See? You're better at this than you think. Evan watched from the stove where he was attempting to not burn the stir-fry, marveling at how naturally Lauren had integrated into their routine. She knew where they kept the extra pencils now, knew that Mia needed encouragement rather than pressure, knew to check if Evan had remembered to take the chicken out of the freezer before starting dinner. Daddy forgot again, didn't he? Mia stage whispered to Lauren, looking at the still frozen chicken on the counter. I can hear you, Evan called, and I was going to remember, eventually. We're ordering pizza, Lauren decided, already pulling out her phone. The usual? The fact that they had a usual pizza order said everything about how quickly this had become normal. Evan nodded, turned off the stove, and joined them at the table where Mia was now drawing elaborate margin decorations on her completed homework. Ms. Hale, can I ask you something? Mia said, not looking up from her artwork. Of course. When you and your husband were married, did you know right away that you loved him? Or did it take a while? Lauren's hand stilled on her phone. Evan tensed, ready to intervene, but Lauren's voice when she spoke was steady and thoughtful. It took a little while. We met at a construction site. I was a junior architect. He was the site manager. I thought he was too confident, and he thought I was too bossy. But we kept working together, and eventually we realized that what we thought was annoying was actually what we needed. He kept me grounded, and I kept him ambitious. So you didn't like him at first? Not at first, no. Sometimes the best relationships start as something else and grow into love. Mia considered this, then looked meaningfully at Evan. Like you and Daddy. Mia, Evan warned gently. What? It's true. You didn't like Ms. Hale when she was just your boss, but now you do. Lauren caught Evan's eye, a smile tugging at her lips. Your daughter makes an excellent point about relationship evolution. Hannah's sister says relationships are like science experiments. You have to observe the data before drawing conclusions. Hannah's sister is going to grow up to be either a therapist or a reality TV producer, Evan muttered. The pizza arrived, and they ate at the kitchen table with the comfortable chaos that had become their Wednesday evening tradition. Mia provided running commentary on the social dynamics of second grade, while Lauren and Evan exchanged glances that said more than words, shared amusement at Mia's observations, quiet appreciation for this pocket of normalcy they'd carved out, cautious hope that maybe this could actually work. After Mia went to bed, Lauren and Evan found themselves on the couch with the kind of careful distance that had become harder to maintain with each passing week. The space between them felt charged, full of things unsaid. I should probably go, Lauren said, not moving. Probably, Evan agreed, also not moving. It's late, and we have that early meeting tomorrow. We do. Neither of them moved. Outside, a car drove past. The refrigerator hummed, normal sounds that felt surreal against the weight of what was building between them. Evan, Lauren said quietly, I need to tell you something. His stomach dropped. Here it was. The moment she came to her senses, realized this was too complicated, too risky. Okay. I talked to HR today, hypothetically, about workplace relationships and proper disclosure protocols. Evan's heart started beating again. Hypothetically, they have policies, guidelines. As long as there's transparency and no direct supervisory relationship, it's not prohibited. Complicated, yes, but not impossible. She finally looked at him, and he saw vulnerability there mixed with determination. I wanted to know what our options were. If we decided to make this something official, what did you find out? That I'd need to recuse myself from your performance reviews, that we'd need to disclose the relationship to Marcus and the senior partners, that there would be some awkwardness and probably gossip and definitely scrutiny. She took a breath. And that despite all of that, it would be worth it, if you wanted it too. Evan reached for her hand, lacing their fingers together the way he'd been wanting to do all evening. I want it too. I'm terrified of messing it up, of what it means for Mia, of navigating work dynamics and explaining this to my family. But I want it. We'd have to tell Mia first, make sure she really understands what this means. She already knows what this means. She's been planning our wedding since the blanket fort incident. Lauren laughed, leaning into him with a naturalness that felt like coming home. We should probably date for a while before jumping to wedding planning. You haven't met Hannah's sister. She's very efficient with her relationship timelines. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, hands intertwined, the enormity of what they were choosing settling over them. This wasn't grief-seeking comfort anymore. This was something real and complicated and worth fighting for. I miss him, Lauren said suddenly. David, I still miss him every day, and I need you to know that being with you doesn't change that, doesn't diminish what I had with him. I know. I miss Sarah too. Probably always will. Evan squeezed her hand. But I'm learning that missing them and moving forward aren't mutually exclusive. We can honor what we had while building something new. When did you get so wise? Extensive therapy and a 7-year-old who refuses to let me wallow in sadness. Lauren tilted her head to look at him, and Evan saw his own cautious hope reflected in her eyes. So we're doing this? Actually doing this? Yeah, we're doing this. She kissed him then, soft and tentative and full of promise. It was their first kiss, and it tasted like pizza and possibility and the courage it took to choose hope over safety. When they finally pulled apart, Lauren was smiling in a way that transformed her entire face. I should definitely go now, before Mia wakes up and finds us making out on the couch like teenagers. Probably wise. See you at work tomorrow, where I will be extremely professional and not at all distracted by the fact that I just kissed my employee. I'm really looking forward to seeing how that goes. Lauren left, but not before kissing him one more time at the door, and Evan stood in his entryway for a long moment after she drove away, touching his lips and trying to process the fact that his life had just shifted into entirely new territory. His phone buzzed. Lauren. That was even better than I imagined it would be. You imagined it? Extensively, for weeks. I'm very thorough in my planning. Good to know. Should I be worried about how detailed these plans are? Definitely. I've been researching relationship best practices the way I research building codes. I have spreadsheets. Evan laughed out loud in his empty hallway. Of course you do. Sleep well, Evan. Dream of engineering principles and proper disclosure protocols. You certainly know how to talk dirty to an architect. I have hidden talents. Good night. Good night, Lauren. The next morning, Evan woke to find Mia standing beside his bed, staring at him with unsettling intensity. You kissed her, she announced. Evan shot upright. Were you spying? I got up for water and you were on the couch doing gross grown-up stuff. It wasn't gross, it was... Wait, how long were you watching? Long enough to know you're officially boyfriend-girlfriend now. Hannah's sister is going to be so excited when I tell her. Mia, you can't tell Hannah's sister, or anyone, not yet. Ms. Hale and I need to figure some things out first. Mia climbed onto the bed, settling beside him with the seriousness of someone about to deliver important news. Daddy, I need to tell you something. Okay? I'm happy you found Ms. Hale. I really am. She's nice and smart and she knows about penguins, but I'm also a little scared. Evan's chest tightened. Scared of what, sweetheart? What if she leaves? What if she decides she doesn't want to be part of our family, and then we're sad again? I don't want to be sad again, Daddy. He pulled her close, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. I can't promise that won't happen. Life doesn't come with guarantees, but I can promise that Ms. Hale cares about us. Both of us. And she's not going to disappear without telling us. Remember what she promised you? That she'd tell us if anything changed. No disappearing. Exactly. And Ms. Hale keeps her promises. It's one of the things I like most about her. Mia was quiet for a moment, processing. Are you going to marry her? Whoa. Let's take this one step at a time. We're just starting to date. Marriage is way down the road. But someday maybe. Someday maybe. If everything works out and we all decide that's what we want, including you, you get a vote in this, Mia. You're part of this family and your feelings matter. I vote yes, but only if she promises to keep doing science experiments with me. I think we can negotiate that into the terms. They spent the morning in their usual Saturday routine. Pancakes that Evan only slightly burned, A trip to the library where Mia checked out 7 books about space exploration, grocery shopping where they ran into Mrs. Chen from next door who commented that Evan seemed lighter lately. Everyone was apparently monitoring his emotional state with the dedication of concerned scientists. That evening, Lauren came over for what they were now calling the official conversation with Mia. She arrived looking nervous, actually nervous, which Evan had never seen before, clutching a bakery box like a shield. "I brought cupcakes," she announced. "I figured important conversations are better with cupcakes." "Smart thinking," Evan said, letting her in. Mia's in the living room preparing her questions. Hannah's sister helped her make a list. Of course she did. Should I be worried? Probably. They found Mia sitting on the couch with a notebook covered in stickers, looking very official. "Ms. Hale, Daddy, please sit down. We need to have a family meeting." Lauren caught Evan's eye, clearly trying not to smile. They sat on the opposite couch, and Evan noticed Lauren's hands were shaking slightly. He reached over and took one, squeezing gently. "Okay, Mia," he said. "You have our attention." Mia consulted her notebook with the gravity of a judge. Question 1. Ms. Hale, are you dating my daddy? Yes, if that's okay with you. Question 2. Do you promise not to disappear if things get hard? I promise. I will always tell you the truth about how I'm feeling and what's happening. No disappearing. Question 3. Will you still come over and do science experiments and help with my homework? Absolutely. Dating your daddy doesn't change how much I enjoy spending time with you. Question 4. If you and Daddy get married someday, can I be in the wedding? Lauren smiled, some of the tension leaving her shoulders. If we get married someday, you would be the most important person in the wedding. But that's a very long way off. Right now, we're just going to date and spend time together and see how things go. Question 5. Do you love my daddy? The room went quiet. Evan felt his heart hammering against his ribs. It was too soon for that word, too much pressure. I'm getting there, Lauren said carefully. I care about your daddy very much, and about you. Love is something that grows over time, and I think what I'm feeling is heading in that direction. Does that make sense? Mia considered this, then nodded. That's what Hannah's sister said would happen. She said grown-ups take longer to figure out their feelings because they're scared of getting hurt again. Hannah's sister is very wise. I know, she's in 5th grade. Mia closed her notebook with finality. Okay, you can date my daddy, but if you hurt him, the Council of Stuffed Animals has agreed that we will be very disappointed in you. I will do my very best not to disappoint the council. Good. Can we have cupcakes now? They ate cupcakes in the living room, the formal atmosphere dissolving into something easier. Mia provided running commentary on her week at school, while Lauren and Evan exchanged looks that said they'd just survived some important hurdle together. After Mia went to bed, they stayed on the couch, closer this time, no longer maintaining careful distance. That went better than I expected, Lauren said, though I'm slightly terrified of the Stuffed Animal Council. They're very influential. Professor Whiskers doesn't make empty threats. Good to know. She leaned her head against his shoulder. Thank you for this, for letting me be part of your family, for being patient while I figure out how to do this again. Thank you for being willing to try, for crawling into blanket forts and conducting egg experiments and surviving interrogations by 7-year-olds with very thorough question lists. I happen to enjoy all of those things. They sat in comfortable silence, and Evan felt something settle in his chest, not the sharp pain of grief, but something softer. Hope, maybe. Or the beginning of healing. The understanding that loving someone new didn't erase who came before. It just made room for more love. The following Monday, Lauren called a meeting with Marcus Chen and the senior partners. Evan waited in his cubicle, trying to focus on design work while knowing his future at the firm was being discussed behind closed doors. Jennifer Walsh appeared at his desk looking like someone who'd just discovered classified information. Brooks, what did you do? What are you talking about? Hale called an emergency partner meeting. She never does that unless something major is happening. Did you get promoted? Fired? Are you secretly embezzling funds? I'm not embezzling anything. Then what's going on? Before Evan could respond, his computer pinged with a message from Marcus Chen. My office. Now. His stomach dropped. Jennifer watched him stand with the intensity of someone watching a car crash in slow motion. "Brooks, if you're in trouble..." "I'm fine. Probably. I'll explain later." He walked to Marcus's office on unsteady legs, finding Lauren already there, sitting across from Marcus, who looked equal parts amused and exasperated. "Brooks, sit down," Marcus said. "Lauren has just informed me of some interesting developments." Evan sat, hyper-aware of Lauren beside him, professional and composed in her work clothes and careful posture. "We're dating," Lauren said simply. "Evan and I. We wanted to disclose it properly and discuss any necessary adjustments to reporting structures." Marcus looked at them both for a long moment, then started laughing. "I knew it. Jennifer owes me $50. "You were betting on us?" Evan said weakly. "The entire office has been betting on you two for 3 weeks. You're not as subtle as you think." Marcus's expression turned more serious. "Look, I appreciate the disclosure. Here's what needs to happen. Lauren, you recuse yourself from Evan's reviews and promotions. We'll shift him to report to me for administrative purposes. You both maintain professional behavior in the office, and if things go south, we handle it like adults. Can you do that?" "Yes, us," they said in unison. "Good. Now get back to work." "And Brooks?" "Yes?" "She's good for you. Don't screw it up." Word spread through the office with the speed of wildfire in dry grass. By lunch, everyone knew. Jennifer cornered Evan in the break room with barely contained glee. "I knew something was different. The improved mood, the secret smiling at your phone, the way you'd both get this look when you thought no one was watching. It was so obvious. We were trying to be discreet. You were terrible at it, but I'm happy for you. Hale's been different too, more human, less terrifying. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." The rest of the week settled into a new normal. At work, Lauren and Evan maintained professional distance, but there was an ease between them now that came from not hiding. Lunch meetings felt less formal. Design discussions had moments of shared humor. Once, passing in the hallway, Lauren caught his hand for just a second, brief, warm, a reminder that they were more than just colleagues. Their evenings fell into comfortable patterns. Lauren came over after work some days, bringing takeout and helping with Mia's homework. Other nights they'd meet at the park, watching Mia play while talking about their days, their plans, the careful hope they were building together. 6 weeks into officially dating, Lauren invited them to her condo for the first time. Evan had been curious about where she lived, imagining something stark and modern to match her office persona. Instead, he found a space in transition. Half the room still looked untouched and sterile, but her living room had clearly been recently renovated with warm colors and comfortable furniture that looked actually sat in. "I've been making changes," Lauren explained, watching him look around. "After spending time at your place, I realized how much I'd let this become just a place to sleep. I wanted it to feel like a home." Mia explored with the fearless curiosity of childhood, declaring Lauren's balcony perfect for stargazing and her kitchen very organized but needs more kid snacks. They made dinner together, pasta from scratch because Lauren insisted on doing things properly, and Evan watched her teach Mia how to knead dough, their hands working together, flour dusting both their faces. The domesticity of it made his chest ache in the best way. After dinner, while Mia was distracted by a nature documentary about penguins, Lauren pulled Evan onto the balcony where the city lights spread out below them. "I've been thinking," she said, leaning against the railing beside him. "That's usually dangerous." "Smartass." She bumped his shoulder with hers. "I've been thinking about the future, about what this looks like long term." Evan's pulse quickened. And I want this. All of it. The Wednesday dinners and the weekend science experiments and the complicated navigation of dating someone I work with. I want to see where this goes, Evan, not as a maybe or a let's see what happens, but as a genuine commitment to building something together. Are you saying what I think you're saying? I'm saying I'm all in, completely, if you are. Evan pulled her close, breathing in the scent of her perfume and pasta sauce and possibility. I'm all in. Have been since you showed up on my doorstep with coffee and curiosity. They kissed on her balcony while the city hummed below them and Mia watched penguin documentaries inside. and Evan felt the last of his carefully maintained walls crumble. This was real. This was happening. This was a future he hadn't dared to imagine 8 months ago. When they returned inside, Mia looked up from the TV with knowing eyes. "You were kissing again, weren't you?" "Possibly," Lauren admitted. "Gross, but also good. Hannah's sister says kissing is an important part of relationship development." "Hannah's sister needs to write a book," Evan muttered. The drive home was quiet, Mia falling asleep in the back seat while Evan navigated familiar streets with unfamiliar lightness in his chest. When they got home, he carried Mia to bed and found Lauren had followed them in, standing in the doorway of Mia's room with an expression he couldn't quite read. "What?" he asked softly, not wanting to wake his daughter. "Nothing, just this. You with her. The life you've built. It's beautiful, Evan. I'm honored to be part of it." They stood in the hallway outside Mia's room, and Evan realized they were at a threshold, not just of the bedroom, but of something bigger. A choice to fully integrate their lives, to move from dating to something more permanent, to build a family from the fragments of their separate losses. "Stay," he said quietly. "Not for the night. I know we're not there yet with Mia, but stay for a while. Have coffee. Talk about the future we're building." Lauren smiled, taking his hand. "I'd like that." They talked until past midnight, sitting in his kitchen with cold coffee and warm hope, planning a future that honored their pasts while embracing new possibilities. And when Lauren finally left, Evan stood on his porch watching her taillights disappear, knowing with absolute certainty that the accidental text that started this all was the best mistake he'd ever made. 3 months into their relationship, Evan woke to find Mia standing beside his bed again, but this time her expression was troubled rather than triumphant. "Daddy, I had a bad dream." He pulled her into bed beside him, wrapping his arms around her small frame. "Want to tell me about it?" "Mommy was there. She was mad at me for liking Ms. Hale. She said I was replacing her." Mia's voice cracked. "Am I replacing her, Daddy?" Evan's chest tightened. They'd been navigating this new relationship carefully, but he'd known this moment would come. The guilt, the feeling of betrayal, the complicated grief of moving forward. "Come here." He sat up, pulling Mia into his lap the way he had when she was smaller. "You're not replacing Mommy. Nobody could ever replace her. She was your mom, and she always will be, even though she's not here anymore. But I love Ms. Hale too. Does that mean I'm forgetting Mommy?" "No, sweetheart. Love doesn't work like that. Your heart isn't a container that empties out when you love someone new. It expands, gets bigger. You can love Mommy and love Ms. Hale at the same time. They're different kinds of love, but they're both real." "Are you sure?" "I'm positive. You know how you love me, and you love Uncle Marcus, and you love Mrs. Chen next door. Different people, different kinds of love. But your heart has room for all of them." Mia was quiet for a moment, processing. "Do you think Mommy would be mad at us?" Evan thought about Sarah, her fierce love for their daughter, her insistence in those final weeks that he'd not spend the rest of his life alone, her whispered conversation with Mia that he'd only just learned about. "I think Mommy wants us to be happy, and if Ms. Hale makes us happy, I think she'd be glad we found her. Even though it was an accident, the text you sent? Especially because it was an accident. Sometimes the best things happen when we're not trying to force them." Mia nestled closer, and they sat in comfortable silence until she finally said, "I want to do something for Mommy, to show her we still remember." "What did you have in mind? Can we plant flowers in the garden?" Mommy liked flowers. They spent that Saturday morning at the nursery, Mia carefully selecting flowers that Sarah would have loved. Bright sunflowers, cheerful daisies, delicate lavender. Lauren met them there, having been texted by Mia with a simple message. "Important flower mission. Need backup." "I didn't want to intrude, book," Lauren said when she found them in the perennial section, looking uncertain. But Mia said it was important. "It is important," Mia declared, showing Lauren her selections. "We're planting a memory garden for my Mommy, so she knows we didn't forget her just because we love you now, too." Lauren's eyes went bright with tears. She crouched down to Mia's level, taking her hands gently. "That's one of the most beautiful ideas I've ever heard, and I want you to know something. I would never want you to forget your mommy. She was an amazing person who loved you very much. Loving me doesn't mean you love her less. That's what Daddy said, but it's good to hear it from you too. They spent the afternoon planting together, creating a corner of the garden filled with Sarah's favorite colors and scents. Evan watched Lauren work alongside Mia, showing her how to dig proper holes and space the plants correctly, never once trying to take over or diminish the importance of what they were doing. This was Mia's project, Mia's way of honoring her mother, and Lauren respected that completely. When they finished, dirt under their fingernails and satisfaction in their hearts, Mia stood back to survey their work. It's perfect. Mommy would love it. She absolutely would, Evan agreed, pulling his daughter close. That evening, after Mia was asleep, Evan and Lauren sat on the back porch looking at the newly planted garden, illuminated by the porch light. Thank you, Evan said quietly, for understanding what today meant, for not trying to compete with Sarah's memory. I would never compete with her. She was Mia's mother, your wife. She'll always be part of your family. Lauren took his hand. I'm just hoping there's room for me too, not to replace her, but to add something new. There's room, so much room. He squeezed her hand. Actually, I've been thinking about something, and I want to run it by you before I make any decisions. Okay. My lease is up in 2 months. The landlord wants to raise the rent significantly, and I've been looking at other places, but everything in our budget is either too small or in bad neighborhoods. He paused, gathering courage. I was thinking maybe it's time to buy a house, something with a yard for Mia, space for a real office, a place that's ours, not just rented. That sounds like a great idea. The thing is, I keep imagining this house, and in my head, you're there too, not just visiting, but living there, with us. He turned to face her fully. I know we've only been officially dating for 3 months. I know this is fast, but it feels right, Lauren. You feel right, and I don't want to waste time being cautious when I already know what I want. Lauren was quiet for so long that Evan started to panic, wondering if he'd pushed too hard, moved too fast, scared her away with the intensity of his feelings. Then she said, I've been looking at houses too. What? For the past month, scrolling through listings late at night, imagining spaces big enough for 3 people, gardens where Mia could play, offices where we could work from home. I just didn't know if you were ready for that conversation. She laughed, shaky and honest. I have a whole folder of saved properties. I've been researching school districts and comparing mortgage rates, very romantic stuff. You have spreadsheets about moving in together? I have extensive spreadsheets, color-coded, cross-referenced with commute times and local amenities. Evan pulled her close, laughing into her hair. You're ridiculous, and I love you. The words slipped out before he could think about them, honest and true and absolutely terrifying. Lauren went still in his arms. You love me? Yeah, I do. I know it's fast and complicated and probably too soon, but I love you. The way you are with Mia, the way you make me laugh, the way you organize your life in spreadsheets and still manage to be spontaneous about the things that matter. I love all of it. Lauren pulled back to look at him, and he saw his own vulnerability reflected in her eyes. I love you too. I've been trying not to say it because I thought 3 months was too soon, but I love you. The way you parent, the way you make me want to be braver, the way you've helped me remember what it feels like to actually live, instead of just exist. They kissed on his back porch, while the memory garden grew in the darkness, and Evan felt the last piece of his carefully guarded heart click into place. This was real. This was forever. This was the future he'd been afraid to hope for. The next morning, they told Mia over pancakes. We have something we want to discuss with you, Evan started, trying to sound casual and probably failing. Mia looked up from her syrup-drenched breakfast with immediate suspicion. Are you getting married? Not yet, Lauren said quickly, but we are thinking about buying a house together, all 3 of us. What do you think about that? Mia's eyes went wide. Like, living together? All the time? Yes. Ms. Hale would move in with us, we'd find a house big enough for everyone, and we'd be a family. A real family. Not just weekend visits. A real family, Evan confirmed. But only if you're comfortable with it. This is a big change, and you get a say in whether we do this. Mia set down her fork with ceremony, looking between them with an expression far too serious for an 8-year-old. I have conditions. Lauren bit back a smile. We're listening. 1. I get my own room. A big one, with space for all my stuffed animals and my science experiments. Reasonable, Evan said. 2. We keep the memory garden. Either we take the flowers with us, or we plant new ones at the new house. Absolutely, Lauren agreed. 3. Ms. Hale has to promise she's not moving in just because it's practical. She has to actually want to be part of our family. Lauren reached across the table, taking Mia's small hand in hers. I promise I'm not doing this because it's practical. I'm doing this because I love your dad, and I love you, and I want to wake up every morning in a house we share. I want to help with your homework and conduct science experiments and be there for the important moments and the boring ones. I want to be part of this family because you two are the best thing that's happened to me in 5 years. Mia studied her with the intensity of someone conducting critical evaluation, then nodded. Okay, you can move in, but I'm in charge of house hunting. Hannah's sister says location is everything in real estate. They spent the next 6 weeks looking at houses every weekend, Mia taking her role as chief inspector very seriously. She rejected the first 3 properties outright. One had bad energy, another had a yard that was too small for proper scientific research, and the third had a kitchen that was clearly designed by someone who doesn't understand breakfast efficiency. She's 8, Evan whispered to Lauren as Mia gave the realtor detailed feedback about cabinet organization. How does she know these things? Hannah's sister is apparently also studying interior design, Lauren whispered back. The 4th house was different. The moment they walked in, something shifted. It was older, with good bones and character that newer constructions lacked. The kitchen opened to a family room with huge windows overlooking a backyard that was big enough for gardens and play sets and future dogs. There were 3 bedrooms upstairs, including one that Mia immediately claimed with a squeal of delight. This is it, she announced from the doorway of what would be her room. This is our house. I can feel it. The realtor looked amused. Should I give you folks a few minutes? Please, Lauren said, already walking through the space with the critical eye of an architect, checking ceiling heights and structural integrity. Evan found her in what would be their bedroom, spacious, with an ensuite bathroom and a window seat that looked out over the street. She was standing in the middle of the empty room, and when he wrapped his arms around her from behind, she leaned back into him with a sigh. This could work, she said quietly. Good bones, solid construction, the layout is excellent for our needs. Are we really doing this? I think we are. If Mia approves, and if you're sure this is what you want. Evan turned her to face him. I've never been more sure of anything. Well, except marrying Sarah and having Mia, but this is the 3rd most sure I've ever been. 3rd most sure, that's romantic. I'm a work in progress. They made an offer that evening. It was accepted 2 days later. The next month passed in a blur of paperwork, inspections, and slowly combining their lives. Lauren gave notice at her condo. Evan coordinated with Marcus about the logistics of moving. Mia designed elaborate floor plans for her new room that may have violated several laws of physics. The week before the move, Evan's brother Marcus finally flew out to meet Lauren. He'd been supportive over the phone, but insisted on seeing them together before they took this enormous step. So you're the woman who's making my brother reorganize his entire life, Marcus said when they met for dinner, his tone friendly but assessing. I prefer to think of it as collaborative life optimization, Lauren replied smoothly. She has spreadsheets, Mia informed her uncle seriously. Color-coded ones, it's very impressive. Marcus looked at Evan with raised eyebrows. You found someone who out-organizes you? It's equal parts intimidating and attractive, Evan admitted. Dinner went well, Marcus warming to Lauren as she held her own in conversation and showed genuine affection for both Evan and Mia. By dessert, he was sharing embarrassing childhood stories and Lauren was laughing in a way that made Evan's chest warm. I approve, Marcus declared later, walking them to their car. But Brooks, if you hurt her or screw this up, I'm going to be very disappointed in you. Everyone's very concerned about me screwing this up. It's extremely encouraging. Good. You should be concerned. You've got something special here. Don't take it for granted. Moving day arrived with the chaos of cardboard boxes and rented trucks and friends who'd volunteered to help. Jennifer Walsh showed up with coffee and commentary. Marcus Chen brought his truck and surprisingly useful packing skills. Even Mrs. Chen from next door contributed homemade cookies and advice about feng shui. By evening, they were mostly settled in the new house, surrounded by boxes that would take weeks to properly unpack, but already feeling like home. Mia had claimed her room and arranged her stuffed animals in what she called optimal spatial distribution. Lauren's books were integrated with Evan's on the living room shelves. Their combined furniture filled spaces that had felt empty when they'd first walked through. That night, after Mia was asleep in her new room and the chaos had settled into quiet, Evan found Lauren standing in the backyard looking at the space where they'd plant a new memory garden. "Thinking about Sarah?" he asked softly, joining her. "Actually, I was thinking about David, wondering what he'd think of all this. If he'd approve." "What do you think he'd say?" "I think he'd tell me I was overthinking it," which was his usual response to my tendency toward excessive analysis. She smiled, sad and fond. "He'd probably say something like, 'Lauren, if this guy makes you happy and isn't a serial killer, stop looking for problems and just be happy.'" That's good advice. It is, and Evan, I am happy. I'm happier than I've been in years. This house, this family, this life we're building, it's everything I didn't know I needed. He pulled her close, breathing in the familiar scent of her shampoo. I'm happy too. Terrified that I'll somehow mess it up, but happy. We'll mess it up sometimes, that's inevitable, but we'll figure it out together. They stood in their new backyard under the stars, and Evan felt the weight of the past year settle into something manageable. The grief was still there, probably always would be, but it had transformed into something gentler, a bittersweet gratitude for what was, rather than sharp longing for what could never be again. 4 months after moving in, on a Sunday morning that started like any other, Evan woke to find both Lauren and Mia missing from the house. Panic flared briefly until he found a note on the kitchen counter in Mia's careful handwriting. "Gone to get surprised. Be back soon. Don't worry. Love, Mia and Mom." Mom. Evan stared at that word for a long time, his throat tight with emotion. Mia had been calling Lauren by her first name since they'd moved in, occasionally Ms. Hale when she was being formal or funny, but never Mom. They returned an hour later, Mia bursting through the door with the barely contained excitement of someone with a secret. "Daddy, we got you something." "Well, Lauren got it, but I helped pick it out." Lauren followed more sedately, holding a small box and looking nervous in a way that reminded Evan of their first real date months ago. "What's going on?" he asked, looking between them. "Lauren has something to ask you," Mia announced. "And I already said yes, so if you say no, you'll be outvoted." "Mia," Lauren said gently, "we talked about this. Your dad gets to make his own choice." "But he's going to say yes, obviously." Lauren took a breath, set the box on the kitchen counter, and took Evan's hands. "I know we've only been living together for 4 months. I know some people would say this is too fast, but I also know that I love you, and I love Mia, and I want to spend the rest of my life with both of you. So I'm asking, will you marry me?" Evan's brain short-circuited. "You're... what?" "I'm proposing. I know traditionally the man asks, but I've never been very good at traditional. And I have a ring, except it's not quite ready yet because we're having it custom made to incorporate a stone from Sarah's wedding ring, which I hope is okay because Mia thought..." Evan kissed her, cutting off her nervous rambling with all the love and certainty and overwhelming emotion that was flooding through him. "Yes," he said when they finally broke apart. "Yes, I'll marry you. Obviously, I'll marry you." Mia cheered, launching herself at both of them in a hug that nearly knocked them over. They stood in their kitchen, the three of them tangled together, and Evan felt the last piece of his fractured heart heal over. Can I tell Hannah's sister?" Mia asked, muffled against their combined embrace. "She's going to lose her mind. She totally predicted this." "After we tell everyone else," Lauren said, laughing and crying at the same time. "Can I be the flower girl?" "Sweetheart, you can be whatever you want to be." "Cool. I want to be the flower girl who also gives a speech about structural engineering and family dynamics." "We'll negotiate the speech content," Evan said, still holding both of them close. They spent that Sunday calling family. Evan's brother Marcus, who claimed he'd seen this coming from the first phone call. Lauren's brothers in Boston, who demanded to meet Evan immediately. Evan's parents, who were thrilled but concerned about the speed. Lauren's mother, who just kept saying, "Finally, finally, you're happy again." The office found out Monday morning when Lauren walked in wearing an engagement ring that Evan had bought years ago for Sarah, but had given to the jeweler to be reset with stones from both their past marriages, a symbol of honoring what came before while building something new. Jennifer Walsh actually screamed. Marcus Chen hugged them both. The junior architects started a betting pool on wedding dates. "I knew it," Jennifer kept saying. "From that very first week when you both started acting weird, I knew something was happening." "We were very subtle," Evan protested. "You were terrible, but it worked out, so I forgive you." Planning a wedding while managing a household and two demanding careers should have been stressful, but somehow it felt easy. They decided on something small and intimate, just close family and friends, in the backyard of their new house, surrounded by the memory garden they'd planted together. Mia threw herself into wedding planning with the enthusiasm she brought to all major projects, insisting on being involved in every decision. She helped Lauren pick the dress. Simple and elegant, nothing like the elaborate gown Lauren had worn the first time. She worked with the florist to incorporate flowers that Sarah had loved alongside Lauren's favorites. She wrote a speech that managed to be both heartfelt and scientifically accurate about the structural integrity of blended families. 6 months after the proposal, on a perfect autumn afternoon, they gathered in their backyard. Evan's brother stood as best man. Lauren's college roommate served as maid of honor. Mia wore a dress she'd picked out herself and carried a basket of flowers with the solemnity of someone entrusted with crucial responsibilities. Before the ceremony started, Evan found a quiet moment alone in the house. He stood in front of the photo of Sarah that they'd hung in the hallway, her smiling face forever frozen at 32, before the illness, before the end. "I hope this is okay," he whispered to her image. "I hope you're not mad that I found someone else, that Mia calls her mom sometimes now. She still remembers you. We make sure of that. But Lauren's good for us. She makes us happy. And I hope, you'd be glad we're not alone anymore." He touched the frame gently, then turned to find Lauren standing in the doorway. "You okay?" she asked softly. "Yeah. Just needed a moment." She crossed to him, taking his hand. "I know this day is complicated. Joy mixed with grief, celebration tinged with loss. If you need more time—" "I don't need more time. I'm ready." He squeezed her hand. "But thank you for understanding that both things can be true. I can love you completely and still carry Sarah with me. That's all I want, for both of us to bring our whole selves to this marriage. All our love, all our grief, all our complicated histories." They walked outside together, where friends and family waited in chairs arranged on the lawn. Mia stood at the front, beaming with pride. The officiant, one of Lauren's architect friends who'd gotten ordained online specifically for this, smiled warmly. The ceremony was simple and perfect. They exchanged vows they'd written themselves, promising not to replace the past, but to honor it while building a future. Evan's voice cracked when he promised to love Lauren and support her dreams. Lauren's hands shook when she vowed to be the mother Mia deserved, not as a replacement, but as an addition. When the officiant pronounced them married, Mia cheered before anyone else, and the sound of her joy echoed across their backyard, across their memory garden, across the life they'd built from accidental texts and shared grief and the courage to try again. At the reception, which consisted of food trucks parked in their driveway and a playlist curated by committee, Mia gave her speech. "I want to talk about structural engineering," she began, and Evan heard Lauren's brothers laughing in the back row. "When you build something new, you have to respect the foundation that's already there. You can't just tear everything down and start over. You have to work with what exists, reinforce it, build on top of it carefully." She looked at Evan and Lauren, standing together with their arms around each other. "My daddy loved my mommy very much. She was his foundation. When she died, the structure was damaged but not destroyed. And then Lauren came along, and instead of trying to replace the foundation, she helped make it stronger. She added support beams and reinforcement and new levels. Now we have this house," she gestured around them, And this family, and it's built on what came before, but it's also something new and different and really, really good. She paused, consulting her notes. Hannah's sister says I should wrap this up with a toast, so here it is. To Daddy and Lauren. Thank you for showing me that families can be rebuilt after they break. That love doesn't run out when you give it to new people, and that sometimes the best things happen by accident. Also, thank you for letting me have a big room and continuing to fund my scientific research. Cheers. Everyone laughed and raised their glasses, and Evan pulled both his wife and his daughter close, overwhelmed by the sheer impossibility of this moment. A year and a half ago, he'd been drowning in grief, sending desperate texts to a dead woman's disconnected number. Now he stood in his own backyard, married to a woman who understood his pain because she'd lived through her own, raising a daughter who was learning that love expanded rather than divided. Later that evening, after the guests had left and Mia was asleep upstairs, Evan and Lauren sat on their back porch looking at the garden that honored the past while celebrating the present. I can't believe we pulled this off, Lauren said, her head on his shoulder. An actual wedding without any major disasters. Mia's speech was perfect. She's been working on it for months. Hannah's sister provided editorial feedback. Of course she did. Evan kissed the top of Lauren's head. Have I told you today that I love you? Only about 15 times, but I'm happy to hear it again. I love you. I love our weird, complicated, built-from-grief family. I love that you proposed to me instead of waiting for me to work up the courage. I love that you understand that I still miss Sarah, and that doesn't diminish what I feel for you. I love you too. I love that you let me be part of Mia's life without trying to make me replace her mother. I love that you send accidental texts that change everything. I love that you're brave enough to try again, even though you know how much it hurts to lose someone. They sat in comfortable silence, and Evan thought about the journey that had brought them here. From that panicked 2 a.m. text to this moment of hard-won peace. It hadn't been easy. There had been tears and doubts, and moments when the grief felt too heavy to carry. But they'd carried it together, and somehow that had made all the difference. His phone buzzed with a text from his brother. Congratulations, little bro. You did good. Sarah would be proud. Evan showed it to Lauren, who smiled and wiped at her eyes. He's right, about Sarah being proud. Not because you've moved on, but because you've moved forward. There's a difference. Yeah, there is. 6 months into married life, they established rhythms that worked for their blended family. Wednesday nights were for family dinners, no phones allowed. Saturdays, Mia had a standing playdate with her friends while Evan and Lauren had what they called date mornings, coffee shops or farmers markets, or just walking through their neighborhood holding hands. Sunday afternoons were reserved for science experiments and gardening and whatever spontaneous adventures Mia decided they needed. The memory garden grew and flourished, a living tribute to the people they'd lost and the resilience they'd found. They added a bench beneath the largest tree where they'd sit sometimes and talk about Sarah and David, keeping their memories alive for Mia while acknowledging the complicated grief that never quite disappeared. Work continued at Hale and Morrison, where Evan had been promoted to senior architect and was leading his own projects. He and Lauren navigated the professional boundaries with practiced ease now, having learned to separate work and home, boss and wife, colleague and partner. On a Tuesday evening, almost 2 years after that accidental text, Evan was helping Mia with her homework when she looked up with sudden seriousness. Daddy, I've been thinking. That's usually dangerous. I want to do something special for Mommy. It's been a long time since we planted the garden, and I think she'd want us to do more. What did you have in mind? A scholarship for kids who lost parents, to help them go to science camp or art classes or whatever they love. We could call it the Sarah Brooks Memorial Scholarship for Kids Who Are Brave Even When They're Sad. Evan's throat tightened. That's a beautiful idea, sweetheart. Where did you come up with it? I just thought about how sad I was after Mommy died and how hard it was to keep doing things I loved. Maybe we could help other kids keep doing the things that make them happy, even when they're grieving. They talked to Lauren about it that evening, and within a week they'd started organizing. Lauren used her business connections to set up the nonprofit structure. Evan reached out to local schools and community centers. Mia designed the application materials with the help of Hannah's sister, who was now in 8th grade and apparently considering a career in nonprofit management. The Sarah Brooks Memorial Scholarship launched 6 months later with enough funding to help 10 children in its first year. At the small ceremony announcing the recipients, Mia gave another speech, this one shorter and less focused on structural engineering, but no less heartfelt. "My mommy died when I was 6, she said to the gathered families and donors. "It was the worst thing that ever happened to me, but I learned that you can be sad and still do things you love. You can miss someone and still laugh. You can remember someone who's gone and still make new memories. This scholarship is for kids who are learning that too, to help them keep being themselves even when everything feels broken." Evan stood at the back of the room with Lauren's hand in his, watching his daughter honor her mother's memory by helping other children navigate their own grief, and felt the last piece of something settle into place. This was healing, not forgetting, not replacing, but transforming loss into legacy. That night, after the event, after Mia was asleep, Evan found himself standing in front of Sarah's photo again. But this time, instead of guilt or sorrow, he felt only gratitude. "Thank you," he whispered to her frozen smile, "for giving me Mia, for those years we had together, for making me understand what real love looks like, and for somehow making sure I accidentally texted the right person at exactly the right time." Lauren appeared beside him, as she often did during these quiet moments of remembrance. She didn't say anything, just took his hand and stood with him, honoring the woman whose absence had somehow led to her presence. "You know what I think?" Evan said finally. "I think that text wasn't really an accident. I think Sarah somehow knew I needed to reach out, that I needed someone who understood. And maybe she helped guide my fingers to the right contact." "That's a nice thought," Lauren said softly. "I mean it. The odds of accidentally texting exactly the person who would understand, who would care, who would show up with coffee and curiosity instead of judgment, that's not random. That's Sarah taking care of us even after she was gone." They stood together in front of the photograph, and Evan felt the presence of everyone who'd brought them to this moment. Sarah with her fierce love and final gifts, David with his practical advice and encouragement to be happy, Mia with her resilient heart and belief in blended families, even Hannah's sister with her mysteriously accurate predictions about relationships. 3 years after that accidental text, on a spring morning that felt like a fresh start, Evan woke to find a new text on his phone. This one from Mia, who was apparently texting from her bedroom 20 feet away. "Family meeting in the kitchen. Bring Lauren. Important announcement." They found her at the kitchen table, looking official, with a presentation board that suggested weeks of preparation. "I have decided," she announced without preamble, "that our family needs a dog." Evan and Lauren exchanged glances. "I have prepared arguments," Mia continued, flipping her board to reveal charts and graphs that would have impressed a corporate boardroom, including research on appropriate breeds for families with children, cost-benefit analysis of pet ownership, and a detailed schedule showing how I will handle all walking and feeding responsibilities. "Did Hannah's sister help with this?" Lauren asked, trying not to smile. "She's in high school now. She has more important things to do. This is all my work." They got the dog, a rescue named Professor Barkley, who Mia insisted needed a title to match Professor Whiskers. The dog completed their family in a way none of them had expected, adding chaos and joy and muddy paw prints to their carefully organized life. On the 5-year anniversary of that first accidental text, Evan and Lauren renewed their vows in the same backyard, surrounded by the same friends and family, plus a few new additions. Mia, now 13 and fully in her Hannah's sister-influenced phase, served as the officiant this time, having gotten ordained online specifically for the occasion. 5 years ago, she began, my dad sent a text to the wrong person that turned out to be exactly the right person. He was looking for my mom, who had died, and instead he found Lauren, who needed us as much as we needed her. Today we're celebrating not just their marriage, but the family we built from broken pieces. She looked at both of them with eyes that were Sarah's, but with a wisdom that was entirely her own. You taught me that love doesn't end when someone dies. It transforms, it makes room, it grows. And sometimes it sends you accidental messages that change everything. Evan thought about that text he'd sent at 2 a.m., desperate and grieving and looking for connection. He thought about Lauren standing on his porch with coffee, about blanket forts and penguin dioramas, about the courage it took to love again after losing everything. The text had said simply, "I miss you." And somehow, impossibly, it had led him here, to a wife who understood grief and hope in equal measure, to a daughter who'd learned that families could be rebuilt stronger than before, to a life that honored the past while embracing the future. As the ceremony ended and their friends cheered and Professor Barkley barked enthusiastically, Evan pulled both Lauren and Mia close, overcome with the sheer improbability of this moment. "Thank you," he said to both of them, "for taking a chance on a grieving single dad who couldn't even text the right person." "You texted exactly the right person," Lauren corrected, kissing him while Mia made exaggerated gagging sounds. "You just didn't know it yet." "Hannah's sister says the universe works in mysterious ways," Mia added. "And for once, I think she might actually be right." They stood together in their backyard, surrounded by memory gardens and new beginnings, and Evan realized that grief and joy weren't opposites. They were partners, dancing together through every moment of a life fully lived. Sarah would always be part of their story, the foundation upon which everything else was built. But Lauren and Mia had shown him that foundations could support new structures, that love could expand to hold both loss and hope, that accidental messages could become intentional families. That night, after the celebration ended and the house was quiet, Evan sat alone on the back porch with his phone. He opened a new message and typed simply, "Thank you, Sarah, for everything. For Mia, for teaching me how to love, and for somehow making sure I found Lauren when I needed her most." He didn't send it, there was nowhere to send it, but writing the words felt right. An acknowledgement of everything that had brought them here, a gratitude for both the past and the present, a recognition that the best things in life sometimes came from the messages we sent when we were most broken. Inside, he could hear Lauren laughing at something Mia said, Professor Barkley's tail thumping against the floor, the sounds of a life fully inhabited. He pocketed his phone and went inside to join them, leaving the ghosts of the past in the garden where they belonged, honored, remembered, but no longer holding him back from the future he'd accidentally found. The wrong text had led to exactly the right life. And that, Evan thought as he wrapped his arms around his family, was the best kind of mistake there was.